record schmear. Whoa, okay, fine, fucking whatever. Do it quick.
Recording is in progress.
The recording. We are going to do a
Bestow upon him
recording.
Jorgensen.
What? Murkensen?
Yes, my consent.
All right, let's do this. We're
Welcome to
ready.
Fleeting Thoughts.
Welcome to the Fleeting Thoughts podcast, coming to you from America.
Land of the free, home of the
Home of the
brave,
land of the free, brave people.
where we
We're
worship
so
a
free.
flag and under God. And
It is
we
under
pledge
God.
allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Just
of the
speaking of
United
that really
States of
quickly before
America.
we
Why
get
would
into
you
the,
pledge allegiance to a flag?
I never, you know, when you're a kid, you don't really think about it, right? It's just the fucking thing you did every morning. You know, after everybody got settled in, you stood up, you threw your right hand over your heart or a vague area where your heart should be. And then, and then you say the Pledge of Allegiance to a flag. And it's not weird when you're a kid, but when you don't do it for a long time and then you are asked to do it, or you're present for a Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time. Maybe I was at a game or something.
And then I'm like, this is fucking spooky, actually.
Well, and then
why are we doing this?
Yeah, you got to decide if you're going to be one of those people that like doesn't put their hand over their heart or doesn't take their hat off or whatever.
Yeah,
and you're like, well, I don't really care to. Also, you're not pledging allegiance to the flag. You're pledging allegiance to like the concept, which I guess is what it represents. You're like, I pledge allegiance to the concept of the American government, which is technically a representative democracy or whatever we want to call it. You know, like
it's gonna take all my money in taxes and then not do anything productive.
Yeah, it's a socialist democracy. It's a demigod democracy. Demigod. Hello and welcome. I'm in Portland. Channing is in Eugene. We represent the West Coast, pretty much. Don't do that. That's wrong.
I just felt appropriate as you were talking about us representing things.
Yeah.
Ooh, what's the worst possible representation I can create right now?
Repping our hoods. Repping that hood life. Hashtag hood life.
Hood life. So this episode's a little special because the E3 just happened, right? So
yeah,
you wanted to talk about E3 stuff. We're a couple of video game nerds ourselves. So E3
I think
is like
I think
Super
you're
Bowl
a bigger nerd than I am.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been playing video games since I was like 4.
Yeah, I
Contra
didn't
on the original
games
Nintendo.
when I was 4. I did play the Atari when I was in preschool or like at a daycare, like a church type daycare that I went to. They had an Atari, and I remember playing like Pong or whatever on the Atari. But at that point, it had already been like, that was old stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that was fairly old, but that was before like the first Nintendo, so it wasn't that old. And then I think they had like a Commodore whatever 64, Commodore blah 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 there, but I don't remember playing that. And then we'd play PC games like Wolfenstein and Duke Nukem, and I'd play over at my buddy's house. And that was when I was, you know, getting into my like later, like must have been like 10, 11, 12, something like that. That was fun.
Yeah, for me it was original Nintendo, and then just moved along to Super Nintendo and then PlayStation. I just always had a console growing up.
Wow.
Because like my mom's boyfriend at the time, he had a regular Nintendo, and so I remember going to his apartment and meeting him for the first time, and then like he just just turned his console on. I was like, hey, check this out. And Contra on the original Nintendo. That was like my first game. I just remember playing the shit out of that, and the original Mario on Nintendo. And
I remember that. That's what we had. We had the Nintendo, and we had Mario Brothers, and then it was like Super Nintendo was the big one. That was when it was like games got really cool. Super Mario Brothers, and what else was on the I mean, there were so many games. Mario Kart, you know, playing those games. I remember that was super cool. But it's now 2021 and we got all these new fangled games.
Yeah, it's a completely different landscape than
Landslide
20-30 years ago.
Yeah, that was like 30 years ago, right? Crazy.
Pretty nuts.
And now we're adults and we can choose what games we want to play.
Yeah.
So we had what was it called? Summer Game Fest, some Game of Summers.
Yeah, Summer Game Fest was like a Jeff Keighley event that he did this year. He does the Game Awards every year too for the last few years. He's kind of like a big video game personality. But yeah, he did his Summer Game Fest, and then like 2 days later was that like the E3 event, which is usually the annual
Yeah.
big electronic entertainment expo that shows off all the new game consoles and video games and stuff. It's like it was
Yeah.
originally designed as like a trade show for media and stuff to go in and just check
Yeah.
out all the new electronic stuff that was about to come out. And now it's kind of evolved into like over the last few years like a show that anybody can go to. I think you just buy
Yeah.
tickets, but last year it didn't happen at all because
Yeah.
of COVID, and then this year the E3 was an all digital event, so
Yeah.
companies put together these like digital presentations for people to stream online and
Yeah.
get an idea what's going on.
Well, they were streaming them a couple years back anyway, so it was
Mm-hmm.
like, weird transition, but still totally like reasonable. You don't need to go there to watch the video of the presentations because it's
Yeah,
also so digital anyway, because it's all just video game play and stuff like that. I
it's
don't
like
remember.
this. It's like the Super Bowl for video game nerds. Like E3 is usually the day where I try to like have the day off,
Yeah.
and you go
Yeah.
buy a bunch of snacks or order pizza, and like everybody gathers around the TV and just checks out all the new shit coming out and
Yeah.
waiting for the surprise announcements and stuff like that. It's like the closest comparison I think I could make to something else. Is it's kind of like the video game Super
It's
Bowl.
yeah, it's the nerd event of the season of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to think because the Super Bowl is a competition, but I guess it is kind of like a
There's a
competition because it's
competition, yeah.
kind of
That
like who's
everybody's
gonna
always
get their
like, "Oh,
money, who's
Sony
gonna get
beat
yeah,
Microsoft or
yeah.
Nintendo,"
But
but you know what I mean. So
Sony didn't even
there's
do a
no, they haven't
thing,
done
did
one in
they?
a few years.
Yeah,
No, yeah, they
they
haven't
just
showed up for.
show you stuff when they want to. Like they
Yep,
don't care about a specific time of year.
I think it's because they're like the top dog. They sell way more consoles than anybody else. They have like the biggest install base. So I think they just know that they don't really need the show. Like they can just do things at their own pace, and people
Yeah,
are going to gobble it up.
I don't think anybody needs the show. Like we all have the internet. We would just watch it as it came out and we would be excited as it comes out. But I think there is something fun about a uh uh putting it all together in one piece in
I think
one
that's what
time.
people
It's
like
fun
about
because
it.
you get one
Yeah.
after another. You're getting these fun things, and it is getting ready for the big season, which is like pre-Christmas when people spend a lot of money on gifts and on themselves, and so all the big games come out at the end of the year, and this is like the pre-game. This is like the pre-notice for it. You can find out
Well,
all the
last
stuff that's coming
year,
out.
since they didn't have E3 last year, like all these companies kind of did their own pseudo E3 like presentations. And what
Yeah,
happened was it just was spread out all over the summer. So a lot of
yeah,
people, were losing track of what companies were doing what presentations when. So that's kind of the nice thing, like you're saying about
yeah.
E3, is it gathers everybody together in one place at like one time,
Yeah, and you
and
don't
you
got to
can
go
just see
searching
everything.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about I don't remember hearing anything much about consoles. Any news with consoles like coming out or PC stuff or VR? Like what about hardware? That's what I didn't really I was watching some videos today trying to catch up on
Well, I
what
mean,
I
as far as
missed.
hardware, because the new Xbox, the Series X and S, and then the PlayStation 5 all
It just
just
came
came
out
out last
recently. Yeah.
November. So I mean, those are really new devices. I think as far as new hardware, like Sony's working on their next iteration of the PlayStation VR that's going to be working with the
Mm.
PS5. And then there's rumors floating around that Nintendo's working on like a Switch Pro that's supposed to be like a beefier
Oh
version
yeah,
of
I've
the
heard of that.
Switch that
Yeah.
can run at 4K in a docked mode and stuff like that. But they
Yeah.
haven't, officially come out and said anything. So it's a lot of just sort of hearsay and rumors. So I mean, as far as hardware goes, that's probably about it. And then I mean, PC space, there's always new shit. And every year there's new graphics cards and processors and stuff that are coming out to for people to take advantage of. But it's a
Sure.
tough time
PC, yeah.
because with the chip shortages from COVID, like I mean, that's part of the reason why it's almost impossible to find consoles, because
Yeah,
everybody's
the
vying
PS5s.
for these chips that are really hard to come by right now. And so it's making it tricky for people to get a hold of new stuff, and it might hamper hardware production for a little while too, and especially in terms of creating new consoles within the next 4 or 5 years. It might push that timeline back a little bit as they try to recover from the chip shortage. And it's gonna, I think, elongate this console generation a little bit, because a lot of people who would get a console within the first like maybe 6 months of launch are now probably get stuck waiting for a year or two. And so you're gonna have a lot of people not picking up a PS5 or a new Xbox maybe until a year and a half or 2 years into the generation,
Hmm.
where normally, most people have them by then and are just playing games.
I wonder if they're getting a like a benefit out of extending the hardware. Like obviously they want to sell stuff now, but there is a certain benefit to keeping things um a little bit demand heavy, like where people are like really clamoring to get certain things. I wonder if there's a benefit to the industry having people kind of on edge waiting for the hardware to come out so that they can get it, because I don't maybe they'll buy more, or it'll allow the money to get spread over more time or something like that, because
Mhm.
I'm not saying that there's necessarily anything like on purpose happening, but it seems like or maybe these companies need to start making their own chips like Apple does now. Like if you're relying on some company to make chips and then you have an event like COVID, then you have to wait for them to decide when they're going to go back to work and all that. Whereas if you just make your own chips, then you can just be like, well, we need this production run to happen. Let's do this and this and have everybody wear masks and we'll just keep making chips.
Well,
Why
I think the
can't they
reason why
just
they
make
don't
some
do
fucking
that is
chips?
it's all that stuff's made in China and it's cheap as fuck to be made there. So if you started making your
It's
own
too
chips,
expensive.
it's going to be
Yeah.
more expensive. So your
Yeah.
$500 console would probably have to be sold at like $600 or $700 for
But
you to
you could
come
get
close to
one,
breaking even.
but you can't get a PS5. So if you could get one, if you could get a thing that's like the PS5 that's as powerful, but for $800, people would have bought that this year.
Yeah.
But I
Well, I
guess
mean,
Sony doesn't
people
want
will
to
pay that
fucking do
much
that.
for
But
it because
yeah,
you can buy a console anytime you want. They're on eBay all the
yeah,
time. It's
they're
just
just
how
super
much are you willing
expensive.
to spend on it? Yeah.
Yeah, not that much.
Um, and I think that part of the I don't think it's part of the strategy, but a strategy you could look at doing is like elongating your console sales out over a span of time, because the more consoles you sell out of the gate right now, the more money you lose. Like Sony said that they lose money with every console that they sell because they sell it for less than it costs them to actually make it. And then they
Yeah,
make up their money through accessory sales and through
yeah,
software. And so if you're able to spread it out over a few years, like the longer that it's in production, the cheaper it's going to get to make as the technology
yeah,
gets cheaper. So eventually you are going to be turning a profit on your hardware sales. But so it's like, if you sell like 30 or 40 million of them right out the gate, you're kind of actually hemorrhaging a decent amount of money in the hopes that
yeah,
people are going to buy a lot of games to go with it to make up for it on the back end.
yeah. I wonder if they're like, this is like a strategy that they can just implement. Like, okay, well, we'll just create a ton of demand and we'll have super low supply, and then we'll decide if we want to up the price and maybe make a new PS5 that's a little more expensive. But we've seen that people are willing to spend the money, so maybe they'll
Mm-hmm.
do that. It's just interesting when something like this happens, because it's not like the supply can't exist. All the factories are there, all that stuff still exists. It's not like we ran out of fucking uh whatever silver and gold and such.
Mm-hmm.
um it's almost like like a like artificial supply loss.
Well, and
But it is
Nintendo's kind of
it's just a
notorious. Yeah,
choice that people made.
Nintendo's sort of notorious for making like a fake
Yeah,
shortage to
yeah, like
increase the
with the
demand. They
Wii
do that a
running
lot.
out and
Yeah.
stuff. But that's what makes me think that, like, while it's kind of annoying for customers to not have access to what they want when supposedly they should, these big companies probably, it's like, okay, we'll just, that's part of the strategy. We'll just deal with it in this way, and we'll extend timelines here and there, and we'll make it seem like this is all just, oh no, it's a bummer. But really, it's just kind of like, fine. It'll take a
Mhm.
couple years, and then because every year they need to be able to provide uh, increases in sales and things like that. So
Well, there's like a statistic that showed that there are more PlayStation 5s like out in the wild like 6 months into the console generation than there were PS4s 6 months in. So even though there's a console
yeah,
shortage, there's actually more of them out
there's
there in
yeah,
people's
well,
hands than
there's
there
more
were during the
gamers and more people
yeah.
playing. So
Well, and I
it's
feel like with the
different.
pandemic, it's pushed a lot of people into gaming because they're
So
spending a lot more
funny.
time at home. And
Yeah,
like the last year was fucking a boom year for
yeah,
video games. Like the video game sales were, up like 200-300%
yeah.
because everybody's stuck at home. So
I
they're
probably
just
bought
staying home
like
gaming.
I probably bought like $20 worth of video games last year. And
I don't want to know how
I'm
much I
so
spent.
so
I
lame.
don't keep track.
Yeah,
It's
I
not,
know you probably
it
bought
would
a
be,
lot, but you always do. You're not like, you
mhm.
weren't different this year than last year.
Oh
You've
no.
been, or the year before. It's just, you like having lots of access to games. So
It's like my hobby, man. That's why I didn't have kids.
yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
play video games and I write books. That's like my thing.
Yeah. Um, so let's talk games. We've talked hardware a little bit. Let's talk
Yeah,
games because I
yeah.
know at least one big game that I'm fucking super excited, which is Elden Ring. Um, which
Yeah, we could start with that one if you want. I mean, I'm
that
pretty
was
excited for it as well. I knew that was I actually I remember texting you the trailer when it came
mhm,
live the other day. I was like, oh, I gotta text this to
that
Joe in
was
case he hasn't
exciting.
seen it yet.
Yeah. You were the first one to send it to me, and then Joey sent me another trailer or another video like right afterward.
Mhm.
And then I spent a good few hours watching all the YouTube analysis commentary
Oh
and
god, yeah. People
like
get crazy with
hidden
that.
things and yeah, it's I'm excited about that. I mean, we've been waiting for something to kind of come along that's Dark Soulsy, other than Sekiro, which I think was just not the same at all.
No,
Um,
I want to go back to Sekiro, but I did not get along well with that game. It just because you have to play it a specific way. Like
yeah,
you can't if you don't
yeah, it
play it the
really
way they want you
is.
to play it,
Yeah,
then you just get your ass beat. So I
yep,
need to try it again, but at the time I just was not good at it, and it frustrated me because I'm pretty good at the Souls games and
yeah,
Bloodborne. Like I've literally finished all of them multiple times, and
yeah,
then Sekiro just I think I made it 10, 15 hours in, and I just kept getting my ass handed to
yeah,
me, and I just got
yeah.
frustrated with it.
Yeah, I couldn't keep playing it either. I got to a point where I had to go farm some element, some item that I needed to use to kill this one guy to move along. And
Mhm.
it was like I just don't want to keep farming this stupid item and then trying to kill this stupid fucking dude. It'd be nice if I could like have a somebody come into my world and help me or something, just deal with
Right,
this
yeah.
stupid situation that's not very fun because there's a couple of enemies in some of those games that are just they're not fun to fight. They're just like super powerful, they have endless stamina, and they can fucking do some weird thing that's fucking hard to deal with.
Mhm.
um so I didn't get that into Sekiro, but I do like Dark Souls 3, and this is Elden Ring is much more along those lines.
It looks like it's kind of they're kind of taking elements from like all of their games and
Yeah,
putting into Elden Ring because Sekiro added the ability to jump, and
yeah,
in the trailer it's like, oh, you can jump in this game, it looks like.
yeah,
But then the aesthetic is very Dark Souls, but it seems like it moves at a faster pace like Dark Souls 3 and
yeah,
Bloodborne. So it seems like they're probably taking
yeah.
the best parts of all their other games and sort of condensing them
I,
into this one.
I think Bloodborne and Sekiro were tests
Hmm.
for mechanics, and Bloodborne they had like the quick step mechanic, and they added that into Dark Souls with the special ability of the daggers,
Hmm.
and then in Sekiro it was testing environments, testing the horse. Like there's a couple bad guys that have horses in that game, which they
Hmm.
never had before. I think, and now there's a horse in Elden Ring, and I think that they used the Sekiro to test out horseplay, even though you don't use a horse in it.
Yeah, I think
Um,
mobility in general,
yeah,
because
just
like
all that stuff,
Sekiro, you could jump,
jumping.
grapple. You get the
Um,
grappling hook thing. I
yeah,
mean, there was a lot of mobility mechanics in that
yeah,
that weren't in the other games. I'm curious if it's gonna play like the Souls game, because so the thing with open world games is usually they're a little bit more forgiving because you have this big world that you're exploring. So could you imagine, for example, they have a bonfire system in this? Like you rest at a bonfire, hop on your horse, you ride for like 10
mhm.
minutes across this big fucking map, and then some
And
random
then you're
thing fucking
fucked.
kills you, and then you have to jet all the way back to that would break the game for me. I'm like, cool. Now I got to ride for fucking 10 minutes again across
Yeah.
this.
I
It's
think
like,
that they're going to solve that with moving campfires. I think you're going to be able to, in certain areas, have make your own camp. And
hopefully,
so
yeah.
then what you can do is go, okay, I want to go into this area, and it'll probably have like areas you can't make a camp. Like you can't
Hmm.
make a camp in the middle of a fucking castle or something. But there'll be like areas outside of highly densely populated areas, like, you know what I mean, like there'll be like a little chunk of area that you have to get through, and
Hmm.
right outside of that you can make a fire, and so you can make your own bonfire, and then you can you'll just end up going back to that.
Yeah.
I was watching one video and they were talking about how in I think it was Dark Souls 3, there was some hidden code that wasn't used that showed that they were messing around with the idea of a movable bonfire. Um, so I could definitely see them doing that, like
Or
if it
it
hits
could
certain
be that
limitations.
that the world's not as open as they make it seem. Like it could
Yeah,
be more hub areas, like
it
you
is.
ride into a place and then it's kind of like, a hub area that you can ride around in like a
Yeah,
few minutes on a horse with things to explore. And then after you finish that area, you kind of move to the next little hub so the
yeah,
level design is more open and you can ride around on a horse, but
yeah.
it's not
It's
like
more
Skyrim
like
where
a
you're gonna
like
journey for an hour to get across the
yeah.
map.
Skyrim was so annoying when you forget to save.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there is a hub area. It is going to have a hub area. What is his name? Uh, I'm thinking Hideo Kojima, but
Oh,
that's
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki
Mhm.
had an interview just like yesterday or today or something with
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Kotaku, and Kotaku put out the thing, and he was talking about a hub. He was talking about um, some multiplayer stuff. He was talking about the how you can summon people to help you, but it's not they're NPCs. They're not like you summon like creatures and things that can help
Yeah,
you.
they were
Like
saying
you
it's almost
summon the
like a Pokemon element. They were like, as you fight the
yeah, you
creatures,
can
like you
catch
get their
them. Yeah.
souls, and then you use those to summon and to help you, which is
Yeah, I
interesting.
love that idea. The
Yeah.
idea that you can have like a familiar other than your horse.
Hmm.
And obviously you can summon the horse. So like in the Elden Ring gameplay trailer, I didn't see any co-op multiplayer elements. I only saw him using the crushable item to bring friends and like helpers into the game, but not like human players. So I don't think that any of the little things that were helping him were actual player characters or multiplayer characters
I could
in
see
the
that because that if they make it a single player game, then it's like one less thing you have to worry about in terms of like building a networking code and to incorporate multiplayer and
yeah.
summoning and all that stuff. Like
Well,
if
it's
you
going
just
to
make
have
a single player.
multiplayer. It's going to have multiplayer for sure.
Oh, okay.
But I just saying in the game, a lot of people or in the trailer, a lot of people thought that the little blue people that came out that
Oh yeah, I saw
appeared,
that. The
though
phantom
I
looking
those aren't.
dudes.
I don't think those were real people. I think that you crush an item, and then whatever the cool thing that was in there comes and helps you until it dies or whatever for a time. It might just be more like a spell. Um, and then I think that you'll have multiplayer. I'm hoping that the multiplayer is very free, very forgiving. Like they just let you play with other people
That's what I
more
want too,
than
because the Souls
just don't
games
make
and
it comp.
stuff,
Yeah,
like they're such cool worlds to explore. They have like some of the coolest boss and creature
yeah,
designs and all this stuff, and it's like and sometimes I'm just like, I wish the game was just a little easier, a little more relaxing to play because I just want to like be in the world and just
yeah,
experience it and not have to worry about being fucking destroyed by the
yeah,
smallest thing. I mean, which is part of the game, and I enjoy that part
yeah,
of it too. But when I saw the trailers for this, I'm like, this looks like a cool world to explore.
yeah,
But at the same time, if it's going to be a
yeah.
fairly difficult experience like the
Around
Souls
every
games, like
corner, you're fucking
yeah, like
getting
it may
murdered.
not be the most fun to explore because it's
Yeah.
like I could fucking be murdered at any moment and have to go back to whatever last checkpoint area that I
Yeah.
was at or bonfire, whatever system they
I'm
decide to
I'm
use.
very curious how they're gonna do that. I don't know if they're gonna do this straight up, like you lose all your souls and you have to go find them again,
Hmm.
because that doesn't really lend to open worlds because maybe you want to go check out an area and you end up dying and you're like, well, I don't want to go back to that area. It's fucking way above me and I can't get my souls back because I fucked up or something.
Yeah.
But in Sekiro, you don't get your souls back. You just lose half your souls.
Mhm.
So maybe there's like a certain mechanic, like depending on how like hollow you are, the less souls you leave behind or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's lots of different ways to do it, but there has to be some kind of death mechanic because that's kind of big on all their
Yeah.
games.
Well, we'll find out soon. I mean, it's coming out in January, like January
Yeah,
21st, I think, which is
yeah.
cool.
I think it might. Yeah,
I wish more companies would do that, like hold off on really announcing and revealing a game and showing it off until you're like pretty close to
yeah.
like it's
Well,
cool to get like a big
yeah,
trailer that gets you excited and then
yeah,
know that the game's gonna be out in like 6 months instead of
yeah,
it's gonna be out the end of 2022, maybe 2023. We don't really
yeah.
know.
Well,
So
and they
it's like
only
you're getting
show
all
you a
excited for nothing.
cinematic or whatever,
Yeah.
whereas the Dark Souls was gameplay and cinematics, and then tons of bosses. Just like I
Mhm.
don't even know how many bosses. It was like almost all boss
Yeah, I
review.
wish that they wouldn't have even showed off Elden Ring. You know, it was like not last December, but the December before, I think, when they showed it off at like the Game
That
Awards. And it's like
teaser,
they should have,
yeah.
yeah, they should have just never showed anything. This should have been the unveiling for the game and gotten people just because you know there's a lot of
Well,
diehard fans that have just been chomping at the bit waiting for any kind of Elden Ring news
yeah,
since it was first revealed. And
for
so
sure.
it would have been cooler if they just waited until now to actually show it off and then get people really pumped to be able to play
Yeah.
it in, 7 months or whatever.
What I didn't get much, and it was a little bit in the trailer, was how the story is, because if you have J.R. Martin in there, whatever his name is, it
Yeah,
J.R.
George R. Martin.
George R. Oh, it's a
George double
George.
R Martin. Yep.
It's confusing because of fucking J.R. Tolkien or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Why do they gotta have R.R.? It's
I
fucking
don't
annoying.
know.
And what's that lady who did Harry Potter? She has like a fucking
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. You like you fucking pretentious writer fucks.
I gotta start changing mine to C.H.
Yeah,
Cornwall.
yeah, ch do it. You should, you'll get all the praise. But like in the story seemed fairly vague, like a fucking Dark Souls game. And it was like, oh, the tarnished one, which is just like the ashen one.
Hollowed
Like,
one, or yeah,
what's
whatever.
different? Why is he involved? It better be a good story that I care about, because otherwise fuck that add-on. Like, why add him to the
Well,
mix?
do you remember when the original Homefront came out like years ago, right? And that
Home,
big advertising point for Homefront, where that game is
I
about, I
do
think,
remember
North
that.
Korea or
Yeah.
South Korea invading the
Oh
US, and
yeah, I
it
did
was
play
a
that.
first-person
Yeah.
shooter.
Yep, yep, yep.
But the big advertising for that game was that it was written by John Milius, who I believe wrote like Red Dawn and some
Oh,
other
okay.
like popular,
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't Red Dawn. He's written like these popular military films.
Hmm.
And that was like a big selling point. And then later on you come to find out he didn't really do that much.
He was
Like
like just an
he just
added
kind of,
name, and he
yeah,
like
he just like gave him
consulted a
some
little bit,
notes and
but yeah,
some consulting. And so I'm wondering if it's going to be that case with the Elden Ring where it's like George Martin didn't really write that much. He just
yeah.
sort of gave him some ideas and consulted with Miyazaki a little bit. You know what I
They
mean?
just went
Because
to dinner a couple times. But that's
yeah,
annoying, because the one thing that is missing, in my opinion, in all the Dark Souls games is
the
story. Even
coherent story.
Sekiro had a better story. They
Mhm.
had like like the character had a past and a goal, ahead of him, that was related to other characters, almost like a plot. But I don't the gameplay's so good in Dark Souls that I don't care about any of the fucking story at all. I
Well,
have no idea what's going on.
they have like obtuse storytelling because like a lot of
Yeah,
the storytelling's in the item descriptions and stuff. So you got to like read all that and then
I'm
like
never doing
decipher
that.
it. I don't either. I'm like,
I'm
obviously the plot's not important if
deciphering.
you're gonna hide it in item descriptions. Like
Yeah.
I just don't care enough.
Well, and it can help with like NPC quest lines to like get alternative endings and alternative
Mhm.
things going on. But for the most part, the gameplay is the fun part, and you could get through the game by just beating up fucking bad guys.
I think ultimately it's because the plots in those games aren't that complex. It's like you're playing
They
as
don't
some
need to be.
chosen
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
that needs to stop the Lord of Cinder or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like that's
Exactly.
the plot really. So
Yeah.
the rest of it's just lore that they use to fill in the world.
Yeah. It's kind of like part of the best things of like D&D and RPGs, like that kind of old fashioned D&D type stuff, is that there's like this epic quest scenario. But in
Mhm.
Dark Souls, it's more like everything is shit, and you just go, just try to make something of it. So it'll be interesting to see if because I love Game of Thrones. So like, can you just write some cool shit? Like, obviously it's not going to be like Game of Thrones, but there are kings and queens and medieval type
Mhm.
shit going on. So, and dragons. What if it's just like he steals from Game of Thrones? He's just
I know.
like
I
there's
wonder how
just
many Game of
Daenerys
Thrones Easter
Stormborn and
eggs are
everything.
going to be in there. There's probably going
Yeah,
to be like an
Jon
Iron Throne
Snow.
hidden somewhere in like some cave
It was so
that if you
funny.
go out of
They'll
your
have to
way
do
of,
it. Yeah.
yeah, there'll
And
be
if you
something.
find it, that's like the Warriors of Sunlight or something. And covenants, are there going to be covenants? Also, like invasions, if it's open world, I mean, it's not completely open. What he
Mhm.
said, I think, in the article was that you'll have way more options at the beginning and throughout the game, but there are certain areas that are like blocked off by like probably keys, and like,
Mhm.
like you got to like progress this way before you can go that way and such. Um, but yeah, I wonder if you can go like to 3 different areas, nobody can invade you. They'd never find you. unless invasions like are more
Well, unless they
like
fog
they've
over areas, like if you get invaded, then you can't move to the next area until
that'd
you
be an
find and destroy
yeah,
the phantom or something.
yeah.
Because they kind of do
Then
that in some of the other ones, like
they
you know,
do
it
that,
creates that
yeah.
wall of fog, so you
Yeah.
can't keep going until you deal with
But
the
you can always
invader.
go into a boss. There's
Hmm.
always this boss out. Like you could go into the boss and use a homeward bone or whatever,
Hmm.
because it'll kick them out. So I wonder how they'll do that. But there has to be some type of like menacing force, like because that's what makes it a lot of fun. I think the multiplayer in the Dark Souls games is great. It's very unique and very awkward. Like you just don't know when you're going to get invaded, and it can suck really bad.
Hmm.
But you have to embrace the uncertainty and the fact that you might lose your souls. You can't care too much about it. You
Hmm.
have to just keep going and keep playing and run by enemies and stuff and learn. So it's a very unique set of games. It's
Well, I'll be
not,
curious to see how it translates to a more
yeah.
open setting.
It'll just be a bummer if it's just like they really fuck it up, and it's like not good, and you're like, oh, but
There's
they,
gonna be a sect of people who don't like it, though. That are like
yeah,
diehard fans of the Souls games. They're gonna be like, I don't like this change. You know what I mean?
but they can
It's
always do
inevitable,
another
but
Souls game because
mm,
that's what's nice about that calling it Elden Ring is it can be its own thing, and
yeah,
then you can always do Dark Souls 4 where you go back to your roots and you fucking uh just do that again.
yeah. What other was there any other like big game? I knew that was going to be a big long
I think
topic was just Elden Ring, but was
Battlefield
there?
had a good trailer.
Yeah, how do you feel? How do you think it's a
1940
wise move
or
for them to
2042.
kind of ixnay their whole can't like single player
Yeah, I
campaign
think
and
it's
just you?
totally fine.
I did too. Like a
Battlefield
lot of
never had a
people.
good campaign. I mean,
Some of
they
them are
never had
okay.
a big campaign. It
Yeah.
was always small vignette type. It was
Yeah,
like
the
four
Battlefield 1
hours or six
campaign. Yeah,
hours
the
or something
Battlefield
like
1
that.
campaign was cool. That was the first one where they did like
Yeah,
the kind of vignette style where it was like each level you were following a different soldier in a
yeah,
different part of the war and you just did this mission as them and then it jumped to the next
yeah.
one. Like I thought that was cool, but
They did a good job with their campaigns, but it was they were always short and they were always kind of like a tutorial. Like
yeah,
this
they
is
just
kind of
always
all
felt
the
like
stuff
a
that's in the game.
yep, it's
But
like an afterthought or like you said, a tutorial for
yeah,
the multiplayer. It's like, this is you kind of learn how to play the game so you can actually play
yeah.
the real game later.
When you have 32 on 32 massive multiplayer, that's where a lot of your resources are going because
Well,
it's not easy to make
but
that
if you
shit
play on
work.
PlayStation 5 or the new Xbox, it's like 128.
So 64 on 64.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
going
think
to
they
double
did
the
that with
player
a
count
couple of
on.
like earlier games.
Yeah,
I
they said
remember
that
they had
the
some huge games before, but
yeah
I
the
love that.
PS4 and Xbox One version it's 64 players, but then
Yeah,
if you get
it's
the
gonna
next
be
gen
crazy.
or PC, it's double that. So
The only problem with that type of gameplay in a military setting is that no one works together as a team in a
mm,
way that really makes sense. Whereas in real life, you would have like a front line and you would have like a commander and you would have troops going this way and that, and you would kick ass because you're working together. But in Battlefield, it's like you and two guys like go together and then like there's just tons of little groups, which can make it really fun, but it gets a little frustrating playing Battlefield when like no one's working together and they don't understand any of the military strategies and they just want to fucking sit and snipe
well, that's why
and
Call of
not.
Duty is so popular. Is it's kind of you can lone wolf it or you can run as
Yeah,
a little group.
yeah,
But I
that's what
had
I
more
like
fun
about
with
Battlefield.
that, and that's what I like about Battlefield 2 is I like
Yeah,
being in a like a little squad
yeah,
and then sticking
it's
with your
great.
squad. And they always try to incentivize you
Health.
to do that because yeah, you have your support, your
Yep,
medic. So
and
it's
your
like you have to stick
ammo.
together.
Yeah,
And then they usually give you extra experience points if you're doing things together and you're
yeah,
like supporting each other.
yeah,
And so I'm hoping that they find more ways to incentivize people to do that. But those are obviously the people who are going to be winning the matches most of the time, are the
oh
people who are
yeah,
actually like working together and playing
yeah,
the game in a strategic way. If your opposing army or whatever is just scattering everywhere, it just makes it really easy to overpower them if you're working together. And
should unless the
um,
game is like really like just free for all fucking
mhm.
killing, but usually it's all about objectives with Battlefield,
That's
like
why I like
taking over
the
areas and
yeah, like the
stuff.
conquest mode where it's like
Yeah,
there's like like new objectives kind of constantly throughout the match where it's like go take this point. Okay,
yeah,
now we got to do this.
Yeah.
No, the new Battlefield looks cool. I like that it's a little bit futuristic. It's not so futuristic that it's like laser
Yeah.
guns. It's like,
Yeah.
technology that's probably realistically going to be used in 20 years.
Yeah.
And the weather effects seem really cool, like with the
Yeah. It
tornadoes and
really
the
fucks with stuff.
sandstorms. And
Yeah.
I think it's wise for them to take all the resources they would have spent on a campaign and to just really make the
Yeah.
multiplayer. They have multiple teams working on this game, like 5 teams,
Wow.
like along with DICE, like making this game. So it seems like the maps are going to be really
Yeah.
big and destructible, and there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of environmental changes as the matches go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had super amazing experiences playing Battlefield where like you're working with your team or you just make a fucking crazy shot or you blow up a building at the right time or
Hmm.
you outsmart somebody. It's very dynamic and you can really get into um weird scenarios just because of the vehicles and because of the environments. Like it's at some point like a building is just not there that was there, and
Hmm.
it's very very cool. I love that about it. It seemed just much more realistic than Call of Duty or most other games like that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think Call of Duty is more for people who are looking for like an arcade
Yeah, it's arcadey.
experience.
Yeah.
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 Battlefield's like
Fast
kind of like
paced.
the more realistic,
Yeah.
almost military
Simulation.
sim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
But
you could do a
I'm definitely
military
gonna check
sim.
it out.
Yeah, I think that'll be one of the only like first person games that I probably get. Or I guess the competitive games.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, you
you
gotta
know what I
really
mean?
pick
Like I'm
because
not,
you only have so much time. So it's like
yeah,
for multiplayer games, it's like, okay, I'm gonna play this one
yeah.
because I can't dedicate my time to multiple
Yeah,
stuff.
because you have to learn them and they're so
Hmm.
difficult. Like you can't just jump into Battlefield and know what you're doing. You have to learn
Yeah.
the maps, you have to learn the weapons, learn the strategies. Um, but
I
then
like that
other
you
first
can
person games, yeah,
switch your attachments and stuff around in the middle of a match. Like they
yeah,
showed that off in one of the trailers where like you stop and like switch things. I'm like, oh, I love that because
yeah,
sometimes you need to change for whatever you're
yeah,
about to do. So,
yeah. Add a suppressor on or
hmm.
whatever, add a different type of scope. And I love guns, so it's cool to play with guns in games. And then there's also other first person shooters like Far Cry
Yeah, Far Cry 6
6.
is going to be cool.
I I'll definitely play
I'll
that.
pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
These games are like a guilty pleasure where they're all kind of the same, but they're
Yeah.
just sort of fun playgrounds to fuck around in
They need
basically.
to make a better multiplayer option in Far Cry because they've had like multiplayer like where you
Yeah, it
can
always
get in there for a
sucks.
certain amount of time and then you have to leave or it's never been that great, but
I
like
wish that they would
just
just
do it.
abandon it. Just don't do it at
Yeah,
all,
don't do
or
anything or
yeah, just get rid of it. I feel like and just focus on a really good single
yeah.
player or
Yeah, they should
co-op
do
where
that.
you can play through the game. Because the co-op they usually have is like whoever the host is, it's making their progress go forward, but
Yeah.
not the player that joins
Yeah.
in. So then when you leave your friend's match, it takes you back to wherever you were when you stopped playing.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that carries over is like whatever items and skill
Yeah.
points and stuff you earn. So it's like not a total waste, but then you got to turn around and replay all the missions you just played with your friend because it
Yeah.
doesn't count the progress for you, which frustrated the hell out of me when I was playing co-op with some friends. I was like, oh wait, now I got to redo all the shit we just did because my story is still way back here.
Yeah. That is a
So
bummer, but it's a tough thing to solve for the game because you are in their world and I don't know. I don't know. I guess they could just mark it off like you did it. Like
yeah.
just check it off.
And speaking of first-person shooters, are you interested in Back for Blood at all? I don't know if you were ever a Left 4
I
Dead
never played.
person, but Back for Blood is like
I
their
watched the
it's
trailer for that.
yeah, it's the team that made the Left 4 Dead games. It's like their kind of spiritual successor to Left 4
It's like
Dead.
a third person.
No, that one's first person. It's
Oh, is
first
that one?
person. It's like a first person 4 player co-op like
Let me.
zombie
I'm.
shooter.
I just watched like a highlight of like all
Hmm.
the fucking trailers, and I'm getting them mixed up. Um,
The big
back
what's so
for
while you're
blood.
looking at that, I just want to say, like, in terms of E3, like Microsoft ran away with that show. Like,
Yeah.
I now there's no reason for people. I'm like, when people ask me what console to get, like between the PS5 and the Xbox, I'm like, just buy. If you have a 4K TV, try to get a Series X. If you don't even have a 4K TV, just get the Series S and subscribe to Game Pass because
The Game
Microsoft
Pass.
showed
Yeah.
off like a little over 30 games. 27 of those games are going to be on Game Pass day one. So it's 27 games you don't even need to spend extra money to buy. you can, as long as you pay the $10 to $15 a month to subscribe to Game Pass, you're good.
Do you also have to
So
have play Xbox Live?
so what it is so Game Pass is $9.99 a month for just Game Pass.
Yeah.
But they have Game Pass Ultimate, which is $15 a month. That includes gold along with your Game Pass. So that's what I do. I just pay the $15 a month and it
You
gives me
still
Game
need
Pass and gold.
live. You still need Xbox Live Gold or whatever to
Mhm.
play with other people, right?
Yeah. So that's why I
Yeah.
just subscribe to Ultimate. So it's
So
like I
it's
just pay the
$15 a month.
$15 a month and you get Game Pass and Xbox Gold like bundled together.
It's $180. That's
Yeah.
not bad.
So if
It's not
you're
bad at all.
somebody who doesn't buy, like for me, I buy way more than
Man, you're
three
making a
sixty
good
dollar
you're making
games
a
a
good
year.
argument, man. You're making a
Yeah.
good argument because I want to play some Halo.
Yeah.
And I
Halo
bet
Infinite
all the
is a,
Halos are
yeah.
all the Halo games on there.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Like
have the
Halo
Master
1,
Chief
2, 3.
Collection. Yep. All of them.
Man, I would play that. And I have a 4K TV and I've never gotten much use out of it. So if I had a Series X and Game Pass, that'd be only like $800. No, it'd be like whatever it costs
Well, so
to
what I
get
did
the
is
console and the thing.
when I got my Series X, I was lucky enough to get it through their all access program. So I pay $35 a month for the next 2 years. And they gave me the Series X and 2 years of Game Pass Ultimate. There's no interest rate. It was like a $900 loan that they give you with no interest. And you just give them $35 a month for 2 years and it just pays it off over time.
Wow, how much is that?
Um,
35
times 24.
24, 840. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I mean. It doesn't cost you more to do it that way. It just makes it so you don't have to spend $500 up front plus
Now you're
whatever
making
else.
even more
So you can do the
cases.
you can do the
Do
all
they still
access
have that
program.
deal?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
an ongoing thing. They started it with the Xbox
It's so
One.
smart. Like people can't afford fucking
Yeah.
$900 all at once. It's
And
just
you can
like
do it, or you can do it with the
yeah.
Series S for $25 a month because the Series S is a $300 console.
Yeah.
But if you have a 4K TV, I would recommend getting the Series
Well,
X because that's the big difference between the two. Is the Series X can do 4K.
Yeah.
It's just a much beefier console.
Yeah.
But no, the fucking X, dude, Microsoft is like I've always been a big Sony person, and I've always liked Xbox, but never like really did like dived in fully with them because I just preferred PlayStation. But
Yeah.
after the Xbox One X came out a few years ago, I started kind of coming around on it. And then with the Series X and Game Pass and like all these things, I'm like, why would I just basically use my PlayStation to play their exclusives because that's like I love The Last of Us and Uncharted and things like you can only get on PlayStation. So PlayStation's kind of become like my exclusive box where it's like, oh, the PlayStation exclusive came out. Demon Souls was a prime example. It's like I really wanted to play that. I really wanted to play Returnal.
Yeah.
So it's like I buy those on my PS5. Everything else I just play on Xbox because most of those games end up on Game Pass or they play better on the Series X because it's a stronger console than the PS5.
Is it backwards compatible?
Mhm.
Isn't that all yeah, you're making a good point. I was all Xbox from the beginning. Xbox 360, and then it wasn't until later that I got a PS3. That was the first PlayStation I ever had was PS3, and it was for something. I don't remember what, but I just needed to play it on a PS3. And then since then, I never bought a Xbox One or an Xbox anything else.
Well, the Xbox One, man, that thing was a piece of shit for a while. They didn't have any games for it.
I hated the user interface.
Yeah, it was not.
That fucking Windows tiles made me fucking mad.
Yeah, and then but then Phil Spencer, he's the new head of Xbox. He took over in 2014, and he's the one that oversaw all these new initiatives as far as like Game Pass and stuff. And so he's fucking turned it around completely.
Yeah.
And so then they just bought like all these studios. They own Bethesda now. So your next Elder Scrolls, your next Fallout, Doom, all this shit, it's going to be Game Pass day one because they own those studios. And so they're like, all of our first party stuff's coming to Game Pass day one and it'll stay there permanently because we own all of it. So they want you to give them
money
every
month.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like always Netflix. Be with us. Yeah. No, subscription models are definitely like the way to keep making lots of money, and it works for the customer because they can quit typically within a certain time period or like after the 2 years, but they're still end up spending more money because they're always spending money on you.
Well, so the thing with Game Pass is like not very many people are like that play games or like me where they buy almost all the new games they want at $60 when they come out. It's like I spend thousands of dollars every year on video games. A lot of people buy Madden, Call of Duty, and like one or two other games throughout the year. So if you get those people to subscribe, you're
You're
actually
getting
making
more
more
money out
money
of it.
off of
Yeah.
them
Well,
because they're
instead of
paying
getting,
you
yeah,
the.
that random amount of
Mm-hmm.
money from random people who
Yeah.
you don't know very much about, you have somebody who's, you know how much they're going to spend over the course of a year, and you know everything about them. You know what games to advertise to them, you know who
Well, they
their
have
friends are, you
data.
know, all that stuff.
They have data showing that the Game Pass subscribers are spending 40 to 50% more money on games every year because a lot of the games that they get
Easier.
on the service, they're there. The game's there for like 6 months and then it goes away because that's how long the deal was for. So they
Hmm.
were saying a lot of people they're trying games they wouldn't have tried before
And
because
then
they
they
don't have to
buy
pay
them.
for them. And then they're getting into them. They're worried about it leaving the service, so then they buy them. And if
Yeah.
you buy them while they're on Game Pass, you get like a 20% discount on the game. So it's like you get it for a little cheaper if you buy it while it's on
It's a
Game
good
Pass,
system. What
and it gets people
PlayStation
to.
has
They have the PlayStation. They have PlayStation Now, which
now,
is
yeah. Isn't
it
that
like
similar?
that. Yeah, it's similar. It has you can download the PS4 games, but the PS2 and PS3 games that are on there, you have to stream because they don't run natively
Oh,
on the PlayStation 4 and 5. And a lot of their stuff, the big difference is that Microsoft is getting new games like day one on Game Pass, and all their first party exclusive stuff is going to be on Game Pass day one. All the stuff on like the PlayStation Now, it's like older stuff that's been out for a few years that nobody's even really buying anymore. So I think they just get it on PlayStation Now for people. I don't know. I used PlayStation Now for a little while. The streaming sucks, even with a really good internet connection. And the games that they just have available are it's like all stuff that I've played because I'm one of the people that usually play stuff when it first comes out. So there's not a lot of stuff that I miss. So no, I mean I totally recommend people when they're trying to decide what console. I have friends that I work with um were asking me last year, and I most of them ended up getting like a Series X or Series S, and they're totally stoked with it because they have kids, and all they got to do now is just pay the $15 a month, and all their kids have access to 300 plus games to keep them preoccupied. It saves them a lot of money having to buy all these fucking random games for their kids. So
that's true. And they're all used to it, Netflix and all
mhm,
that. And
yeah.
I'm sure you can use parental settings to like say they can and can't play these ones games, these certain games. It does. I mean, the makes sense. All this nickel and diamond for like trying to figure out which one game people are going to buy and which, like,
Hmm.
fuck it, just put them all in a bucket and then say give me $5 a month and you can have access to all the bucket.
Hmm.
It's just simpler. Um, and everything's trying to go that way anyway with every streaming service and every I mean gaming is the next to do it, so it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Back for Blood, I watched the trailer real quick on there. It looks cool. It looks like a kind of arcadey um zombie first person, super crazy fucking weapons and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, see, and that's a prime example. That game is going to be on Game Pass day one. I had it on
Yeah.
like a wish list. I was like, oh, I'm going to pre-order and buy it. And I'm like, and then after the Microsoft conference, I was like, oh, never mind. I don't have to spend that fucking
Yeah.
$60 now. But that's like the perfect game, right? Because it's a multiplayer game. And so you immediately have a bigger install base because everybody who has Game Pass now has access to this multiplayer game.
Yeah.
And then people like you, maybe, who are like, oh, I'm kind of interested, but I don't know if I'm going to like it. Now you're going to try it, right? Like if you were subscribing, you're going to be like, oh, fuck it. I don't have all I have to lose is the time it takes me to download this game.
Yeah.
And then
So you
like you
just
you can
download it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just download it and fucking you're good to go. And they also, if you want to stream, you can. I've actually played games on my phone through Game Pass, and their
Hmm.
streaming is actually really good because they're a fucking tech company.
Yeah.
Microsoft has their Azure cloud, but no, I played Narita Boy. It's like this side scroller that came out earlier this year. I played through almost the whole thing on my phone,
Wow.
just streaming it through Game Pass.
Is it
So
an app that lets
yeah,
you
it's an
link
app you
up?
download, and then
Yeah.
you just link up a Xbox controller, or I have a what's called a Razer Kishi. It's like a thing that you attach to the
Yeah.
side that turns into like a
Yeah, makes
handheld.
sense. Oh, that's too cool.
Yeah, you just use that. So it's like if you're traveling, if you go somewhere with a decent internet connection, instead of lugging your Xbox, you can just fire up Game Pass on your phone and just play some shit there. It's great for like kind of slower paced stuff. It's not quite solid enough for I was playing like Doom 3 on there, which is a little bit faster paced. And it worked pretty well, but
Yeah.
sometimes it kind of lag out for just a second while it was
Yeah.
trying to load. Um, but anyway, just
Yeah.
Back for Blood is like I said,
Yeah.
it's like the perfect game for Game Pass because it's going to immediately get a bunch of people involved in the game that would have been on the fence about spending
Yeah.
$60+ up front for it.
So my only question is, how much are you getting paid from Microsoft to give me this pitch? No. Just kidding. That's good. I'm glad you made the case because I have no real plans to buy any new consoles, but
Mhm.
at some point it'll happen, I'm sure.
Well, I feel like with Battlefield coming out later this year, like that
Yeah,
might be something that pushes you to do it because you're going to
it's
be getting
gonna
the
need it.
optimal
Yeah,
performance and experience on the next gen consoles.
yeah, for sure.
Same with when when Elden Ring comes out next year, like it's going to be on the older consoles, but it's going
I
to
know it is going
play
to be on the new
so
one,
much
isn't
better on
it?
the new
God
one.
damn
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna have to get one.
Well, and once
Maybe for Christmas.
yeah, once you go to the new consoles though, once you start experiencing
Well,
those faster
obviously,
load times
yeah.
and like
God, I love
everything
those
running at like
loads.
4K with
I
60
need that
frames per
sweet
second,
load.
it's hard. You can't go back. Like
Well,
you
why would I
like
go back? What?
exactly. Well, you
I
can and
have the
like
new one.
once you start playing
I
games at
wouldn't go
like 60
back.
frames per second regularly, and then you try to go back to a game at 30, you're like, why is
Yeah.
this so fucking slow? Why is it
Yeah.
so like laggy looking? Because you just get used to the faster refresh rates where everything smooths out. And so yeah, you
Yeah.
should definitely, especially with your sweet new job, making all that extra money, might be
Yeah,
time
I
to
need to
invest, my
save money.
friend.
I need to get my fucking life together. I need to spend money on entertainment, but I will. I will for sure. What else? Dying Light 2, they announced a little while
Yeah,
back. That looks
that looks,
awesome.
yeah,
I
that'll
just
be
love
fun.
Dying Light, super good. That's got multiplayer kind of just inbuilt, like you can just fuck around with that. But
Mhm.
I don't know if your progress carries over very well in that one. You kind of have to redo your progress in your game, I think, with that one too. Um,
Well, I imagine in Dying Light 2, it'll probably start you fresh because you're playing as a different character.
yeah, I just meant during the multiplayer.
Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah.
when you're in somebody else's world, is it going to make you redo everything?
I think
Because
in the
Dying Light
first
does
one,
that.
if you joined somebody's game that was like in the same area you were, it would move both your progress, but it would throw a warning at you if they were further ahead. They'd be like, this person's further ahead. You're not going to get any story progress if you join.
Yeah,
So
that
then you'd
sounds
have
right.
them join you if they were ahead of you so that they could get you caught up or whatever.
You have to ping
Um,
pong back and forth a little
mhm.
bit. Yeah, it's I just love the gameplay in Dying Light. Um, so
I
that
want to
looks
give
pretty good.
a shout out to a Plague Tale Requiem, which I feel like is going to be a
Yeah,
game
I don't know
that
nothing
a
about
lot of
that one.
people, yeah. So Plague Tale Innocence was the first one. It came out like 2 or 3 years ago. One of my favorite fucking games from the generation. It takes place during the Black Death in France, I believe, and you play as the daughter and younger son of this like kind of somewhat noble family, like maybe middling noble family, not like a king, but like a
Hmm.
duke kind of level. Um, and so part of the game is you dealing with the plague and then like these crazy rat swarms. So part of the gameplay was about using light and fire to scare away rat hordes that would just like gobble you up basically if you got in their path. While also dealing with like these cults and stuff, like these religious fanatics who are trying to blame the plague on all these unsavory things like the devil and shit like that. Anyway, super fucking cool, like third person kind of stealth action puzzle game that a lot of people kind of slept on because it wasn't like a big budget, but it was really good. And so when I was watching E3 on Sunday, when they showed off the trailer for a Plague Tale Requiem, I was like super excited because I that was one of those games I didn't expect to ever see a sequel for. So to see
Mm.
that they're going to be doing another one,
How long has it
um,
been since the first one came out?
I think the first one came out in like 2018. I want to say maybe 2019. It's only been around for 2 or 3 years, but it was kind of like a double A, not like an indie level game, but kind of a B tier style game. Didn't have like a big budget, but it was a really really good time. Um, so that's a game I'm really excited for. I feel like everybody's pretty excited for Halo Infinite and Starfield, which it sounds like Starfield's gonna kind of just be like Elder Scrolls in space or Fallout in space. Um, the new Forza Horizon. I don't know if you watched any of the trailers for that. Just how
I did, but
fucking realistic that looks. It's fucking
it always,
crazy.
I mean, it's looked
Yeah.
realistic for years. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just more realistic. Like that game is like fucked up how, but it's also because there aren't any people involved. So the hardest thing to do in CGI is human faces
Yeah, yeah.
specifically, and there's no human faces in Forza. And
Well, so I've been playing Forza Horizon 4, which is the last one that came out on the Xbox. Because I'm
Yeah,
not a big racing game person, but again, it's on Game Pass, and I was like, oh, I feel like checking this out. And it's funny because like the environment looks fucking incredible in that game, but they
yeah,
actually have characters in it that are
yeah,
walking around in cutscenes and stuff, and the characters all look weird because
yeah,
you're like, what? The environment looks amazing, but the characters
yeah.
don't. They look okay, you know. So in comparison, it's sort of jarring to look at them against these like amazingly detailed backgrounds. So I'm sure that'll probably be the case for the
It
five.
just
But
has to be because they're putting so much effort into the freaking cars. But
yeah,
cars are geometric, shapes with
well, I think it's the
shaders,
cars and the environments because they base it off,
Yeah, the
real
environments are great.
places. So it's like they're
Yeah,
just spending all the time really
yeah.
doing
Well, it's
that.
kind of like the flight simulator game. Like that looks fucking amazing as far as
Oh yeah.
environmental stuff goes. Um, so yeah, I think that'll be interesting. I'm just not into car games at all. Like I've played a few and was into a few, and like Burnout was pretty fun.
Hmm.
But for the most part,
I'll play one
cars
every
cars
once
are
in a while,
not
but I
that
get
great.
bored with them really fast. I'm like, I drive every day in real life. I mean, it's fun to like race these cool cars, but
Yeah.
after a little while, I get kind of bored with it. Um, there's some other cool games like some kind of smaller titles that I'm really excited about. It's 12 Minutes, which I don't know if you saw the trailer for
Is
that. It
that
takes
about my
place.
sex life?
Yes, exactly.
Which would be called
Uh,
2 minutes? 12
2 minutes.
minutes minus 10 minutes?
Yeah, 12 minus 10. But that's like a
No, I
time
didn't.
loop
I don't
game where
remember
you
seeing that
play.
one.
It takes place like in an apartment, and the game, I guess, it takes place in 12-minute loops where these people break into your house and like end up killing you and your wife, I think. And then your character's caught in a time loop. So the game is you trying in these 12-minute increments to change the outcome of events.
That's
And it
cool.
looks really cool. It's got like James McAvoy in it and
Willem
Daisy
Dafoe.
Ridley, Willem Dafoe. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like some famous people attached to it. Um,
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I like the idea of unorthodox games,
mhm.
where it's like that one with AI. I forget what it was called. It was they announced it a bunch, and it was mostly about like deciding what to do in like weird hostage negotiation situations.
Hmm.
Um, I forget what it's
Oh, that
called.
was
You know what I'm
was
talking about?
Detroit Become
Yeah,
Human.
yeah,
Yeah.
become human, where you are like a robot in the future.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that looks pretty fucking cool.
There was
Um,
party animals that they showed off, which when Vanessa and I were watching the E3 trailer for that, she was like crying on the couch laughing so hard at that game.
Party
Where you,
animals?
yeah, party animals where it's like it's this little indie like multiplayer brawler type game where you just pick one of these cute, adorable, like stuffed animal looking things to play as. And then it looked like from the trailer that you just beat the shit out of each other, or it's almost an obstacle course kind of thing where you're trying to fuck each other over the whole time to win, but it's done in the guise of these like adorable animals. It just looked really
Did
like a
not see
fun.
that trailer or that trailer at all. I'm trying to look at different games because there's one that I kind of liked the aesthetic for. It was a side scroller.
Oh, was it?
Um,
There was those were two that I was going
it's
to
like
bring up. Summer.
Departed or Left Behind or something like that.
There's Somerville, which looks like it's like a family during an alien like invasion that you play as, and then the other one is Replaced, which was like
Replaced.
that
Yeah,
cyberpunk
that
looking
looks
like
cool. It looked like
16-bit.
um oh fuck, I suck at remembering things. What's that fucking movie? There's a movie about the future with cyborgs. It's
Blade Runner.
super Blade Runner. It looked like Blade
Hmm.
Runner, but you're the AI. Because in that game, in Replaced, you're an AI in a human body, which is very similar to like Blade Runner,
Hmm.
which is human. They look like humans, but they're actually AI. But the aesthetic looked really interesting. I don't know why that stuck out to me. It
No,
just
it
kind of,
really stuck out to me too.
yeah,
The soundtrack and everything. I was like watching.
yeah.
I'm like, this looks fucking cool.
It looked really dark and interesting.
And to continue the pitch, replaces a day one Game Pass game.
What?
That Party Animals game, day one Game
I gotta
Pass.
look at that party.
A
What is
Plague
that?
Tale Requiem, day one Game Pass. Like
What
that was
what
like the
isn't on
theme
the
of no,
Game
like that's
Pass?
the thing.
What
Like
isn't on it?
when you're watching E3, you're
Elden
like,
Ring is not gonna be
Jesus,
on there.
no, Elden Ring, they didn't say. Diablo 2 Resurrected, which looks fucking dope.
I saw the like a really
Mhm.
quick trailer for that. That could be super good because the Diablo games I think got worse through time.
I liked 3 a lot. I didn't.
Oh,
I never
really?
played the first one. 2, I played a ton of when I was a kid, like on my computer.
Yeah.
It was like one of the few games my computer could
They were
actually
just
run.
simpler.
Hmm.
The only thing I didn't like about 3, which was fun to play, it was just a button masher that like
Oh yeah,
nothing
it's very
mattered. Like
arcadey. Yeah,
it didn't matter what you chose, you just smash buttons toward them
yeah. As long as you were
in the
like
right direction.
constantly upgrading your equipment, you
Yeah.
could just tear through that game.
Well, and
Look
even
through.
if I think we turned the difficulty up, like I would play it with other people sometimes,
Hmm.
and I think I played it with you maybe once, but we would turn the difficulty up to like hardcore and super hardcore, and it'd still be just you just running
Yeah.
through things. But
Well,
it did
Diablo
get
2 was
funner when it
always a
was
lot
harder.
harder. Like,
Yeah, and it
so
was
I'll
more
be curious to
methodical
see.
and
Yeah.
more like dungeony.
Hmm.
I remember the first one was like very difficult because you didn't know what was going on, and there was only limited supplies and stuff. I didn't
Yeah, I'm
see anything
excited
for
to play.
Baldur's Gate. There, I know they teased that. I remember Baldur's Gate was super fun.
Well, they have a new Baldur's Gate game coming out. I think it's called Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. It comes out on June 22nd, so just a couple weeks from now. Day one Game Pass as well. And that one you play choose from like one of 4 characters, and you can play in like 4-player co-op, like an action RPG kind of loot
Yeah,
grinder type of thing.
yeah. I think that the people who are making the new game were the people who made a like a turn-based RPG, and it was like I don't know, that doesn't seem great. I don't like turn-based RPGs.
There's
I don't like taking turns.
Atomic Heart. That was another game that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I
That looks
watched
kind
that
of like a
trailer.
BioShock, but like in like a 60s Russian sci-fi setting or something. It looks
Yeah,
really interesting.
they
Um,
there's another one, Silenced, or what is that other one that takes place in Russia? It's like something to
oh,
um
Stalker 2.
Stalker, yeah.
Stalker, yeah.
Stalker
Which
2.
Stalker's like really
I
popular
don't
on
know. I didn't know
PC.
there's a Stalker 1.
Yeah, it's a really big PC game. It's kind of like it's sort of similar to like Fallout and the Metro 2033
Yeah,
games. I
it
don't know if you're
reminded me
familiar.
of Metro,
Yeah,
yeah.
very like similar to those. I think they're a little bit more intensive though, like in terms of like equipment management and survival elements and stuff than Metro and Fallout, but I didn't play much of the first Stalker. Trying to see if there's anything else that was like really exciting. Redfall looks cool, although it was just a CG trailer. But the team that made Dishonored and Prey are working on that one for Microsoft now that they own them. It's
Yeah,
like a
a lot of the
vampire
games
hunting game. Looks kind of cool.
as I was watching the trailers just kind of back to back, they started like all kind of looking similar to each other. Like they were like there's a bunch of first person shooters that are kind
Mhm.
of all the same, and then Redfall was more like that's when I thought you were talking about when you were talking about the Left 4 Dead,
Oh,
because
really?
this
Yeah.
reminded me of Left 4 Dead a little bit because it's third person and you're like running around doing crazy shit.
Well, yeah, they said it was going to be like a co-op kind of open world shooter, so I imagine there'll be a lot of similar
Yeah.
things to that. But um, Outer Worlds 2, which that I mean just
Yeah.
got teased. I don't. Did you play the
I
first
played
Outer
a
Worlds at all?
little tiny bit of it over at my friend's house, but
Mhm.
and it seemed very cool. I liked what was going on there, but it was, it's a long-winded game that has lots going on, so we didn't get
It was
very
kind of
far.
like I liked it because it was like a bite-sized Fallout. Like it wasn't as
Yeah,
big and expansive as Fallout, but it has the same kind of
more
gameplay.
directed. Yeah,
And it was like the areas were more because you would go to multiple planets, and each planet had like a map that was maybe like a tenth the size of a Fallout map or something. So it was like much smaller
yeah,
areas to explore, but they were still open.
yeah.
And then you got to, hop around to different planets. So you got really big changes in scenery. So
I
I'm
like
excited
the
for Outer Worlds too.
graphics, and the
Mhm.
gameplay was really good in Outer Worlds. Um, yeah, lots and lots of freaking games. Horizon Zero Dawn was announced a little while back as well.
It's Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, whatever. Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
I,
Horizon.
I did you play through the first Horizon? Like
Oh
I
yeah, I
I
played the
enjoyed
shit
it.
out
Like
of
I
it.
played it when it came out, but I wasn't like as hot on it as a lot of other people because it felt very similar to other open world games like Assassin's Creed and stuff, where it was like,
Yeah,
oh, instead of climbing a radio tower, you're climbing this long neck robot dinosaur to unveil stuff on your map. And like
the
it was
main.
fun, but
Yeah,
it was like had like and I had that same problem with Ghost of Tsushima too, where it's like this is a really cool game, but it's also got a lot of these really familiar
yeah,
open world gimmicky kind of things that you can just do over and over and over
yeah,
again.
yeah. Really similar stuff, just climbing, upgrading your weapons,
Following foxes to
killing
shrines.
the same dumbass AI over and over and over and over and over. The only thing I liked about Horizon that it wasn't in a lot of games was just the bow stuff, like all the bow shooting. I thought was really fun.
Well, yeah, you had to like strategically take down the
Yeah,
robot dinosaurs
you had to
because it's
kind of
like
know a
you're.
little bit about each one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I'm
there, I
definitely
mean,
not that excited about the new one.
no, I'm not either. Like I'll obviously play it and I'll pick it up when it comes out. I
Of
mean,
course, you got to get
it's
that fucking achievement,
yeah,
the 100% achievement.
the old platinum trophy.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's important.
but I'd be curious to see if Sony's going to do something this year, like their own kind of E3 style presentation where they do a big blowout with a bunch of stuff. Because it seems like when you look at like Microsoft just literally showed off over 30 games that are coming out between now and the end of next year. So over the next,
Yeah,
maybe 16 months or so, 18 months, like there's over 30 things that they showed off. And now it's not even everything that they're working on either. Um, but then
well,
you look at Sony's layout and like they just had the new Ratchet and Clank come out, which is a PS5 only
it's
game,
kind of a
which I'm
kid's
not the
game though.
biggest. Yeah, I'll play it eventually, but I'm not going to spend $70 on it. I'm not that big of a Ratchet and Clank
Yeah,
fan. But I'll probably pick it up maybe later this year when it's on a sale or something, just for something fun to play. But and then you've got Horizon Forbidden West, which they said they're going to try to get out this holiday season, but they're not 100% sure they're going to hit that mark. And then you have the new God of War, which is coming out next year sometime. But it's like beyond that, you don't really, there's not really
yeah.
much
There's no
else
new
coming.
Uncharted, no Last of Us, no.
There's like a Last of Us remake that they're apparently doing.
Oh, really? I'm not gonna play that.
Yeah, so it's
Um,
just like I don't really, unless
yeah,
they just are keeping all their cards close to their chest, like it doesn't seem like they have a lot in the pipeline over the next 12 months or so, outside of a few. And I
maybe
mean, the
be
few games they
yeah,
have coming are all going to be like, excellent, amazing, fucking top tier games, I'm sure. But it's
yeah.
like,
Maybe
hopefully
because
they.
they're having troubles with the PS5, they don't want to put a bunch into getting people hyped up when they can't play stuff on the PS5. So
Well, a lot of
I
the
don't
games
know.
they've announced are coming to both. Like
Both,
Horizon's going
yeah,
to be on both. The new God of War
yeah,
they already said is going to be on both consoles. So I don't think it's that.
yeah.
I imagine COVID probably just fucked everything up for they. I'm sure they had all kinds of plans, and I think they were saying that COVID pushed a lot of projects like 12 months out
Yeah.
from what they were originally slated for because of how much more difficult it is for them to work from home. You're not going to be
Yeah.
working as efficiently as if you were all in an office together.
Yeah, because they've got to it's kind of like a constant um like somebody will be working on something and you need feedback immediate, like really quickly, like is this
Mm-hmm.
working and should this make sense? And then if they're at home working on projects, then it just takes longer to get the feedback for like what they're working on because it's all on computers, which would make sense to be at home, but it's really the editing, like fixing and adapting and making it all work together and making sure you've got the storyline that makes sense and all that. I'm sure you really need probably people to be near each other and have quicker access to testing and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Testing the thing that you've been working on. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, lots of game stuff happening. I'm still playing some Dark Souls, but I think my little multiplayer group we might need to come up with some other
Something
stuff
new.
to play, some other multiplayer stuff because we played Dying Light a lot, and then we've been playing Dark Souls 3, but
The
I don't
multiplayer
know.
game I've been playing a lot, I played with Vanessa and our friend Kyle, is Dead by Daylight,
Oh
which
yeah,
is like where it's a 4 versus 1, like one person's a killer and the other four are survivors. And so the objective is that survivors have to repair 5 generators to open in a gate to escape the map. The whole time the killer's trying to hunt them
find
down
them.
and then sacrifice them to this thing called the entity, which is like this like spider leg demon.
Hmm.
But it's really fun. Like you just have to work together to like get these generators done, and they give you some tools and tactics that you can use to sort of deal with the killer or slow him down. It's cool because they get the license to all these like iconic horror franchises, like
Hmm.
Michael Myers from Halloween's in it, Freddy Krueger's in it, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Is it
They get
just
like,
you in the game? Is it just you and your team versus that guy
mhm.
doing all the stuff?
Yeah,
There's
so
no
it's like
other team
nope, just the four
like
of
in that
you
other
versus
game.
one killer. Yeah.
Yeah, we tried playing that other game where it's kind of like that. I forget what it's called, The Hunt, and it was
Oh,
like
okay.
fucking clunky as hell. And like we we could not get good at that game. It was not that fun.
Yeah, I remember seeing trailers for it and I was like interested, but I was like, I don't like the idea of only having a multiplayer first person shooter thing. Yeah. Because isn't in that where it's like multiple teams going in to hunt down like
Hmm.
some supernatural creature of some kind, and then yeah,
Is it third person, the Dead by Daylight?
yeah, it's third person when you're a survivor, and then when you play as the killer, it's in first
Yeah,
person.
we tried playing that other game with it was the Predator game where you can either be the
Hunting
Predator or
grounds.
whatever,
Yeah.
hunting grounds. And it was kind of interesting, but like I don't know, you got to kind of grind out to like figure out the game and to get good at being the Predator and stuff. And it was just getting your ass kicked and being confused. Like you just get thrown into
That's
like
kind
an
of
already existing scenario.
how Dead by Daylight is, because like each
Yeah,
killer plays a little differently. They have their own set of skills that you have to kind
yeah,
of learn to use. Survivors are a little bit easier because they all have like their own perks that you can equip that give them different bonuses, but essentially they all kind of play the same.
yeah,
And so it's kind of like that where it's like there's a pretty steep learning curve, but once you start really getting into it, it's a lot of fun.
yeah,
So that's like
yeah.
something that's like
Interesting.
usually every like Friday or Saturday night we're on there for like 4 or 5 hours straight, just fucking playing Dead by Daylight.
Wow,
It's
that's
a
a
really
lot.
good time. Yeah.
It's kind of complicated to come up with a really good like multiplayer game for adults who like don't have a lot of time and also all play different games.
Mhm.
Like it's easy if you just all are into Call of Duty and you're just a bunch of guys, but if you have friends that like they don't all play those kind of games, you got to come up with other multiplayer games that are still fun and challenging, but that like three totally different styles of people can play
Well, I
or
think that's
get
the thing
into.
with Dead by Daylight is like Vanessa, she likes playing video games. She doesn't play nowhere near as much as I do, but like this, that's the Dead by Daylight clicked for her because one, she's a huge horror movie fan, so it's fun for her to like basically be constantly living a slasher film scenario over and over again. Um, but the game has like a skill level where the ceiling's not super high. Like there's a difference between people who are just starting and then people who've been playing for a while. Like there's tactics that you learn to develop, but it's like a game where even if you're not super familiar with video games, you can still get in there and play it and like do well and have a good time. Whereas like Call of Duty, it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
fuck,
it's
dude, you get in that,
impossible.
you're just gonna get annihilated by everybody who's been playing the game nonstop all year. The only time I do well in a Call of Duty game is if I play it right when it first comes out and everybody's new to it.
Yeah,
And then within like 2 weeks, I suck because I don't play as much as everybody else. And so
yeah,
they all have learned the maps, they have all this shit unlocked, and then they just start destroying me.
yeah. It's funny
Um,
how those games have become kind of little breeding grounds for experts. Like
mhm.
they're just like, oh no, I'm just gonna fucking get super good at this and play fucking 8 hours a day for months.
What's funny is I went back and was playing the original Titanfall not that long
Yeah,
ago,
I saw your tweet or something
and
about
I
that.
was like kicking ass. I was like playing against all these people who are like max level, who've
Hmm.
like prestige 10 times. And I was doing really like I had some matches that I got my ass beat for sure. But like overall, I have never
Hmm.
done that well in a first person shooter multiplayer. And I for some reason like Titanfall has always clicked with me, both of them.
Hmm.
The multiplayer I've always done pretty well. And I don't know what it is because they essentially play like a faster paced Call of Duty where like
Yeah,
you have the
but
wall running and the jet boost, and then you
yeah,
can call down the Titans. So there's like that layer
I
of it
think
too.
two big things that are different about Titanfall. One is that the maps are fairly open.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not indoors as much.
Yeah,
And then there's also NPCs on the map.
which I
And so
love. I
you're
wish that
kind of
more games do
always
that.
shooting at somebody. It might not be a real person. So you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of take out the NPCs, which I was weirded out by when I played Titanfall. I
Oh,
was like,
really?
what? That's not a person. And then I'd find a person who was a real bad guy and they would just kick my ass because I didn't realize I couldn't tell the difference between the NPCs and
Yeah,
the
it's like in the
real
way that
bad
they
guys.
move. They look a
Yeah,
little different, but obviously the pilots are going to be moving
yeah,
faster.
yeah,
But I wish more multiplayer shooters did that because the cool thing is like, let's say you're getting your ass kicked by other pilots a lot, but if you're still killing a lot of the AI grunts, all those kills are still adding points for
yeah,
your team. So
yeah,
it's like even if you're not necessarily doing well against other players, you can still contribute in a meaningful way by just
yeah,
going around and killing all the AI. And
yeah. It's
I'm
it's
surprised
interesting.
more, and it just makes like the maps and the battlefield's fuller,
Yeah.
and it makes it feel like there's a more of a large scale battle going on when you
Yeah.
have all this AI
Yeah.
shooting at you and
I
shooting
like
at
it.
each
I think
other.
it's a
And
good idea. I think it makes
because
sense.
if it's a somewhat open map and you literally just have 12 players on it all running around, it
Yeah,
like
you
feels
won't
kind of
find
empty.
somebody for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing some Call of Duty games where you're just like you just run over this way and then you don't see anybody, run over that way and you don't see anybody,
Hmm.
and then you die.
And then you're like, cool, why am I
Yeah.
playing this? I fucking hated this.
Yeah, Call of Duty is super well done. It's just kind of not for everybody
Yeah, it
like
plays
anymore. It
really
used to
well.
be really like kind of anybody could just jump into a Call of Duty game. They had their campaigns, they had all
Hmm.
the different modes and stuff, and you could just jump in and have fun. It's become much more competitive and
I just don't even play them
difficult.
anymore.
Yeah,
The last one I played was Call of Duty World War II, which I just played through the campaign because I like World War II
yeah,
stuff. And I played the multiplayer, I think, for like the first weekend that it was out. Because again, like I said, when everybody's new to the game, I do pretty well because I'm like kind of on an even playing field with
yeah,
everybody. But after like that first week, I'm just like, nope, I'm I'm done with this because I'm not going to keep playing it.
yeah.
So
Well, and you like to play a bunch of different games, you
yeah,
know.
that's my problem too. Is I prefer games to have an end because I like to finish something and then kind of move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, some games don't have an end. Kind of like
mm,
even I mean like Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas or whatever, Fallout like games, those kind of open world games, you can technically get to the end of the main
yeah, the
story,
main story,
but the
but
actual gameplay, there's no real
yeah,
end
there's just
to
so
it. You
much
can
to
just keep
explore.
doing stuff forever. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Definitely be spending some time gaming, but lately it's only been to play with co-op. Like
Hmm.
I mean, other than I picked up Ghost of Tsushima again and started playing that just for something to do, and it's super well done. I started doing what you were doing, which is just going in and fighting, which is
Oh yeah,
super
just
fun.
challenging them.
Just challenging and just learning how to get better at the and I'm at the midpoint of the game where you actually have more challenging bad guys,
Hmm.
and they don't just die immediately. So um, that's super fun. It's super well done game. But um, other than that, I haven't really been playing a ton of different stuff.
Yeah, I've been playing Dead by Daylight, and then I just played through Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, which is kind of like it was released after the second one. It's kind of like a third one, but it's not like a full game. It's kind of like a big expansion that they just released on its own. It's like own separate kind of entry in the series.
Yeah,
But
it's like a
the Dishonored games are fucking fantastic. Like
yeah. I
in
never
terms
got
of
into
just
those.
you should check them out at some point. I think you'd like them because of the amount of options you have. Like it's one of those games where like all the levels can be approached in
Yeah.
multiple ways. You get like a set of supernatural powers, and then you have all this gear that you get that just enable you to play the game how you want. Like you can be completely stealthy and not kill anybody through the whole game, or you
Hmm.
could just fucking mass murder everybody. I mean, it's just like, and there's like so
And
many
there's
different
nothing in
ways.
between. It's
No,
it's you either kill everyone or
everyone
no
or no
one,
one.
or
Um,
else you are weak.
but every level just has like different ways. It's like you can morph into a rat and crawl through a vent to get to the guy that this target you're trying to get to, or you can just go through the front door murdering everybody, or you can
Hmm.
find some alternate way to sneak in through like a window upstairs somewhere. It's like just every level has like this completely
Yeah.
open plans on how you can approach it, and it's almost like one of those games where if you think you can do it, you can probably do it. Like
Hmm.
they're just really really inventive games. So after I finished that, I started playing Prey, which I played through a couple of years ago, which is kind of like Bioshock in space, but is also made by that same team that made the Dishonored games. So it has a similar
Hmm.
thing where you have all these alien powers that you can get that kind of open up your exploration, and because it's like on the space station, hovering around the moon, dealing with like this alien outbreak basically. And but the whole, just like Dishonored, it's like the whole station is kind of like a playground, and you can just decide how you want to approach. Like you can hack everything if you want, or just you can power yourself up to where you're like lifting these big heavy objects out of your way to
Hmm.
get through things, or you can start punching through doors if you get strong enough.
Yeah, I remember Prey. I feel like I played Prey a long time ago. How long has that game been out? Freaking
It
for a
came out like
while, right?
2017, I think.
Oh,
It's been out,
really?
yeah, for about almost
I
5 years.
wasn't. Was there a game that was like Prey that was before Prey? I feel like there's a game like 10, 20 years ago that was very, very similar to that.
Might have
called
been like
Prey.
System Shock or something like
Yeah.
that.
It reminds me of Dead Space, and
Yeah,
why didn't
similar.
they? They should make a new Dead Space, or at
You
least
should
like do a revival of the first three or whatever.
look
Just do
up
a
a
collection.
trailer for a game called the Callisto product protocol.
Hmm.
That's made by
Yeah, I
the
feel like I remember
development
hearing
lead.
something about that.
Yeah, it's made by the guy who made Dead Space. It's like his new team.
Yeah, right.
He worked. I know he worked on the original Dead Space, maybe Dead Space 2,
Hmm.
but he
I'm
was
gonna
part
look it
of
up.
Visceral Games. And is like one of the creators of Dead Space, and that's like the new game he's working on, which is kind of like it looks like a spiritual
I think I
successor to
watched
Dead
that
Space.
trailer, and that's what that's why I'm thinking of Dead
Because
Space.
the trailer is like this guy locked in a prison cell, like on a space station, and then like there's like an alien outbreak or some kind of viral outbreak happening. It looks fucking cool just from like the one trailer that they've had come out. But in terms of Dead Space, like that's probably going to be the closest thing we're going to get to any kind of Dead Space revival is going to be the Callisto Protocol.
That's great. I
So,
loved with Dead Space. It was like the weapons were so fucking cool.
mhm.
Like, what other game do you have weapons like fucking, that weird laser cutters and
Well, the
you know,
whole idea behind Dead Space was that you were playing an engineer, so you were using tools to do the fighting instead of
yeah,
like I think the pulse rifle was like the only traditional gun that you got. Everything else was like a tool of some kind that you just repurposed as a weapon. So you had the plasma cutter and the line gun and
yeah,
flamethrower and
yeah. It was just super cool, and the
Mhm.
aesthetics were awesome, and the gameplay was great. Dead Space was awesome. I'm just kind of
no,
checking out
yeah, Dead
this
Space is
YouTube trailer real quick.
Dead Space is probably like the last like really awesome like survival horror franchise that we've gotten.
It's
There's a
really,
lot of them
really
are sort of
good.
dormant now. Like you don't haven't got any new Silent Hill games in forever, which is really sad. And
Yeah.
then
Well, Resident Evil is kind of like that. I
yeah,
was
well,
watching
Resident Evil is like Resident Evil 7 was more horror esque, and then Resident Evil 8 I didn't think was scary at all. It was
The
good, but
Village.
yeah, Village wasn't.
I just watched the very end of it.
Hmm.
Joey, I was over at Joey's, and
Oh, really?
he was literally like playing through the very end. I watched like the very
So
end
you
of the
just
game.
so you just know how the game ends and then nothing else.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. But at the end kind of is like um it kind of recaps a lot of what's going on because it's like um you find out what really is going on with Ethan and what's going
Hmm.
on and all that. So, but I have no idea. Like, none of it makes any sense to me. But I haven't played any Resident Evil games since like the first one.
I was say I don't think a lot of people even knew what was going on in that game that played through the whole thing because that game, the Resident Evil
It's pretty
Village, was like one of the
confusing.
most ridiculous plots like
Oh,
going
really?
on. Yeah, it's very like bananas.
Yeah. It's definitely got like I like that it's first person. I honestly had no idea that Resident Evil was in first person at all. And
Yeah, the
then
seventh one was the first one to do that. Like
yeah,
7 and 8 are the only two that seven and
it,
Village or whatever
they
are the
remind me
two.
so much of like the old Carnival or Resident Evil arcade shooters that you would
I
when
like
you
House of the
there
Dead
was
and stuff.
House of the Dead. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that kind of stuff. It all reminds me of that. Obviously way better now, but the since it's first person, it just makes it less scary for some reason. The first
You
person
should
aspect just
did you not play Resident Evil 7 at all?
no,
Oh, you should
no.
jump into that
I
one,
have
I
no
feel
idea.
like. Because that was the first one they did in first person. Plus 7 is like a good entry point because that's the first game that has Ethan in it. Like it introduces you to new characters
Oh
instead
yeah.
of playing as the old ones. So you can kind of play it without really knowing about the other games because it's kind of like 7 and Village are sort of like their own little dual set of
Oh yeah.
games that aren't really tied to much else.
Since they're first person, I probably like them a lot more because I can just jump in and do first person stuff. But I remember all the other ones were very clunky to me. All the third person, the way that you would aim and stuff, just
Yeah, well,
turned me off.
the first three in Code Veronica were like the old tank controls with the
Yeah.
fixed camera angles. And then Resident Evil 4 was like the grandfather of that over the shoulder third person shooter perspective because that was the
Oh
first game to
yeah.
ever do that. And then 5 and
So
6 had
much
the
better.
same over the shoulder third person stuff as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the OG Resident Evils, those were clunky
Those are
as
the
fuck with
first
the
ones I
tank
played and
controls
I
and
couldn't handle it. I didn't enjoy it. I would just die because my little stupid red dot wouldn't be in the right spot ever. I'm not used to that. My friend Jason was playing a game called Blood Rain something something, and it was like a side scroller version of Blood Rain. Did you ever play Blood Rain? Blood
Yeah,
Rain
I
was
played it
like
on the
a
PS2.
it was
I
like a
played the first one.
vampire game where it was like third person. She could jump around
Yeah,
and
she had the
fucking
blades on her
cool
arms, and she
ass
would just run around.
weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that game was super fun because
I
you could
forgot
kind
that they
of
did a side scroller one. It was like kind of like a
yeah
cartoony
yeah it's
animated
super
stuff.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
like
forgot that
Blood
they did
Rain
that.
something some fucking
What a
resurrected or some
weird
bullshit.
random game to be playing. Like interesting.
Yeah, just very different. Parasite Eve was one of the games that I played
Oh, yeah, I like those
around the
too.
time that Resident Evil was super popular. But Parasite Eve didn't have that same tank kind of shooting, and it was super interesting and weird and like
Well, the first Parasite
Japanese.
Eve was like an RPG. It was like
Yeah.
you get into fights like a Japanese
Oh
RPG,
yeah, it
and
was.
then
It was turn-based. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that. It was like the only turn-based game I ever played that I really liked.
But yeah,
Um,
the first time it was like you could
Super
because you could
weird.
still move around the battlefield, but you had to like wait for your meter to fill up to attack or something like that. It's been a
Yeah.
while since I played it.
Yeah.
And then Parasite Eve 2 just basically went almost like full Resident Evil, where it went way more survival horror style gameplay
Yeah,
than
I
the
don't know if
first
I
one
played
was.
two, but I remember just being super excited about the story and the like creepy stuff going
Yeah, it's
on
very
and the
weird.
like it was almost Metal Gear-y in that like you're just kind of learning what's going on as you go and there's all these like
It was
um
based off of a novel, I think, like a
oh really?
Japanese novel, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't see any Metal Gear stuff or I guess Hideo Kajami pajamas.
Kojima. Well, he's doing Death
Hideo
Stranding. He's
pajamas.
got
He's
the
doing the Death
Death
Stranding
Stranding director's cut
director's
that's coming
cut.
out. I
Um
did not like that game. I tried to, what
yeah, I
sucks
don't
about Death
care
Stranding
about
is
it.
like when you start that game, it has like one of the coolest intros. Like it's such a weird out there. Like
Yeah.
you're watching it and you're playing the beginning and you're like, this is fucking wild and cool.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes oh, this is literally a delivery package game in like a really interesting landscape. But the whole game
Yeah.
is just you delivering packages.
Yeah, I don't
And
get
so
that.
it's like
Why?
after a few hours, I was like, I'm kind of just done doing this. Like, is there a mode where I can not do package delivery, but just see the rest of the cutscenes and find out what's going on in this world? Because it's
That'd be
really
fun.
fascinating, but this gameplay is fucking stupid.
Yeah, I don't know what the to me it's just like what can we get away with as far as trying to test new mechanics? Like we'll just make a game that's got all this stuff that I want to do, but it's not a real game. It's like it's not for
It just felt,
entertainment. It's
it just felt like
for
all padded out,
tech.
It's like they
Yeah.
didn't really have an idea for like a long game. So they're like, well, let's make him a package delivery guy
We'll just keep adding
and we can just
levels.
we can just have him do a bunch of package deliveries and then we'll fill the story out kind of slowly as you go. And so yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
some
What's
people really
sad?
got into it though, but
Yeah.
it's like a love or hate game. Like you're either really gonna get into it or you're gonna be like me and you're like this is
Yeah.
fucking dumb. Why fetch quests are the worst thing in video games, so why would you
Yeah.
make a whole game that's literally just a giant fetch quest?
Where
Like,
you're
just
slowly walking in a exosuit.
yeah,
I think what's sad is that the actual human future will probably just look like that. That's
probably
like
just
how our world will
barren and
actually end
sad.
up. Like he weirdly like just made a future game, like the game that literally is exactly like our future. And we just have little exosuits and we're just moving around product for big companies
Mhm.
that sell them to rich people that we'd never see.
While you're dealing with these weird
Spirits.
supernatural ghost creatures that suck your soul out if they touch you. So you have to have a small baby attached to you that somehow masks you from ghosts or
It's
something
like
like that. It's a fucking crazy
your
game.
Morty when you're
Mhm.
Rick. You need to have a Morty so that you can
It
hide
hides your brainwaves from
because of
the
his stupid brainwaves.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I think Rick and Morty's supposed to have a new season here
Yeah, I
coming
think it
up pretty
starts at the end of
soon.
this month, actually, like in the next
No
week or something.
way.
Yeah, I think
Fucking
it
A.
starts. Wait, hold on, look it
I'll have to watch that. Can you look that up for us?
up.
That's not a
Yeah.
video game. We're talking about video games.
There's a Rick and Morty video game. It's like a Pokemon game where you catch
Oh
Mortys.
yeah. Yeah, I
I
don't
played
want
a
to play
little bit
that.
of it on my phone. Like I just out
I
of
don't want to play
curiosity. It
that
was
at
kind of
all.
fun. June 20th at 11 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, that's very soon.
So yeah, next week.
Cool. Are they gonna release just one episode at a time, like
Well, of course,
weirdos?
man. Yeah,
Ah,
it's like
weird.
Adult Swim. I'm pretty sure. So they'll probably
Is
just do
it
an
Adult
episode a
Swim?
week,
Like I have to like go to their website and watch them,
probably.
and then
Unless
it'll end up on
you
Hulu
don't have
because it's on
cable
Hulu.
because
I
it's
don't have fucking
2021 and people still
cable.
have cable, right?
I don't. I don't
Yeah, you
have
can probably
any
watch it on
normal
their
TV.
website.
Um, I feel like I usually just wait until the whole season is available on whatever I'm already paying for.
What I did last season was I bought the season because like through the Microsoft, like the Xbox store, you can buy the season, right? It's like a pre-order, and then as the episodes air, they just add them to your playlist.
Yeah, that's
So like
great.
you own them as they come out, and that's how I watched the last
Well, if
season.
they're
Is
yeah,
I just spent the $20 to buy the season, and then I just watched them as the episodes became
yeah,
available on there,
I'm
which they
too
would like
cheap.
they would activate like the day after it aired or whatever,
Oh, sure.
and then I just owned it and could rewatch it as many times as I wanted. So
That's nice. You got to bring it back to Microsoft, don't you?
I'm becoming a fucking shill now, man.
Yeah.
I'm literally
Fuck it.
recording this on a Surface Book, which is Microsoft's fucking
Oh,
laptops that they
really?
make. Yeah.
Is your headset
So
made by them too?
no, this is actually a Sony Gold
Oh,
headset.
Sony
So
does have good headsets, but they also have like TVs and stuff.
yeah, I have a Sony TV. We actually have two 4K 55-inch Sony TVs in the living room. They're mounted up
Nice.
on the wall. No, I'm a big Sony fan too. It's just the Xboxes, they're fucking turning it around, man. They're making all the right moves.
That's good. Yeah, I know
Um,
they were definitely kind of the second tier for a while with PlayStation
mhm.
being
They
having better
just botched
hardware
the
and
Xbox
stuff.
One launch completely. Is the
Yeah,
weaker console was more expensive. They
yeah,
had the stupid Connect, and they talked about TV nonstop. It's just they just completely mishandled that
and being
last
like
generation.
online only and all that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then not really making any of it make sense. But now they got that PC money.
Yeah. Well, they just got better people in charge now who actually play video
That makes
games and
sense.
know the business.
What about Nintendo? We didn't anything. I know Breath of the Wild 2 is something that's coming out, but I
So
don't have a Nintendo and I don't
Nintendo's
give a fuck. But I
their
I just
conference is until tomorrow actually.
is it?
Yeah, Tuesday morning at
They're
9.
doing their
So
own
they
thing.
haven't even they haven't technically gone yet. So I don't
Yeah.
think they really have anything that exciting to show probably.
The system for the children. They still
Yeah,
just are kind of
I have
just
a Switch just to play the Zelda games, and I get the Mario games that Vanessa and I will play through together. That's about
yeah,
it. Metroid and Zelda are the only two Nintendo properties that I care about, really. I'm not a
yeah,
big
Metroid.
Mario fan. Don't care about Donkey Kong that much.
You
Yeah.
don't?
Mm-mm.
You don't want to be Donkey
But
Kong it?
yeah, but Legend of Zelda and Metroid, man, I'm there for those. So
Yeah, I have nothing from Nintendo that I care about at all. I think the Switch is cool because it's mobile and that's
yeah.
badass. But
Well, what's
it
funny is
put some goddamn games on there I can
that's
play.
what I would use the Switch for, right? Was when I went traveling, I'd be like, oh, let's take the Switch. It's the perfect
Yeah,
time to just
have
play some
something.
handheld stuff.
Yeah,
But then now that I can just stream Game Pass games to my phone, I just do
yeah,
that instead. So I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I'll just do that.
Yeah, I don't play any games when I'm like traveling. Like,
I don't that much
I
either.
just don't.
I'd rather bring like a book with me. Like if I'm gonna go, if I have to like wait at a doctor's office or something like
Yeah,
that, I just take a book with me and I just read while I'm
yeah,
waiting.
it's better anyway, probably. I don't know.
Yes.
I think they're both good for your brain. I think reading is really good for your brain because you're learning new information, integrating it into a bigger world, and being active with your brain. But I think video games do the same thing. You're solving puzzles, you're organizing information, you're organizing the things in the game. I think that both of those things in games in general are just kind of like um, good for your brain. I think that as generations play video games for their whole lives, they won't be smarter necessarily, but I think that um, Alzheimer's will go down and dementia will go down, and because keeping your brain active, solving
Hmm.
problems, and learning new information and being active is what staves off those problems typically.
Well, I think
Um,
that's why,
it'll be
like when you're
interesting.
reading, I feel like it uses a different sort of thinking, right? Because when you're reading, you're really imagining and creating images in your mind based off of the words that that you're reading,
Hmm.
right? And that so you're doing that while also comprehending what you're reading and making it make sense. Whereas video games, it's like the image is already presented to you, but then you're
Hmm.
interacting with it in a different way because
Yeah,
you're sending these signals to your brain to move your fucking thumbs and
yeah.
fingers. And then like you said, there's like puzzle solving in games. There's a lot of reading in games too. I don't People don't seem to realize like
Yeah.
most games like they have item
Well, and
descriptions for
listening,
stuff. And
active listening
yeah.
is good because you have to pay attention to what people are saying, but it's almost all just puzzle solving. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
everything. I mean, a fetch quest is just a puzzle,
It's a lot of
you know.
hand-eye coordination,
Yeah, especially in first person
stuff. So
shooters and
no,
visual
there's
acuity.
valuable.
I
Uh,
think that's one of the problems that's going to come along with age as the gamer base gets older is visual, like your vision's going to go out and you're going to have to, I mean, even if you wear glasses, at some point your vision just gets worse and worse and worse as you get older.
well,
So
your
I wonder if
reflexes slow down too. They
and
like
your
a lot of
reflexes get worse. So you'll be playing different games, but maybe there'll be more games that are
there's
a
gonna be
little
more
more
accessibility options. Like
like
they've already started to
yeah,
develop a lot of new accessibility options that incorporate different color blindness and just
yeah.
blindness in general. Um, like I did you ever play The Last of Us 2 when it came out?
Yeah.
Did you look at the accessibility options that they had?
I
Like
looked at a couple of them. I
I
don't
was say,
remember.
like that's like one of the first games that had like the most extensive, and
Did they
that's
have
actually they actually consulted with like
a
disabled
colorblind
gamers.
thing?
Yeah.
Did it have a color? I think I remember that.
Well, they have a low vision option in Last of Us 2 where it would like highlight enemies in like
More
bright red.
contrast. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if you have really low vision, like you're legally blind, you can still play the game because you could still make out what was a villain or enemy or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That'll be really
And
smart.
but that and that's something like a game that they consulted with disabled gamers to like figure out
Yeah.
what are some accessibility options that we can put in here to like would help you be able to play the
Yeah.
game.
I think
'Cause
VR might help with that too, because
mhm,
VR gives you so many more options that you don't necessarily have to rely
yeah.
on this the typical controller and the typical visual experience. Obviously, it's visual, but you could also have auditory cues from different parts of your headset or whatever that tell you where things are. Um, or whatever. I guess with technology, you know, sight is probably going to and hearing loss. We have good technologies for hearing
Mhm.
loss and all that. So I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of the people who are designing games now, as they get to that age where your certain physical things start to become impaired, like those are going to be the people who are also going to start developing accessibility options
Yeah,
because they're going to want to try to find a way to make it so they can continue to play.
yeah,
So I feel like, as developers themselves are getting older, they're going to start incorporating more and
yeah.
more of that into it.
Yeah,
But
and as the gamer base gets older, like I mean,
mhm,
you're gonna have a like almost like 90% of people who play games of some sort. I mean, we already have tons of people playing games,
mhm,
but there's tons of people who don't, and most of those people are older. But as those people die off and we get older, it's going to be like everybody's playing something,
mhm.
and whether it's on their phone or whatever. And so it's just interesting. You're going to have like 90-year-olds who have opinions about the current fucking, you know, game that they're playing on their phone, tons and tons. That's more than just like a Facebook game. It'll be interesting to see
The 90-year-olds
what that world's like. Yeah.
listening to fucking death metal playing Call of Duty.
Yeah, I mean they should be if that's what they grew up with, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because you you don't change that much over time. So
I'm the same as I was when I was 8.
you were, you are,
Oh
yeah. Never grow
yeah.
up.
I don't know.
I don't
Uh,
want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid, except the Toys R Us went down and there's no more of it.
no, it died.
Yeah, because it couldn't compete.
Well, things just come and go, man. It's just the nature of the world.
Nature of the beast, the old beast. All right, this is fun.
Yeah, nice video game chat all about
Video game chat.
E3 and other things. A lot to look
Yeah,
forward to.
yeah.
Joe, you
What do I
need to
need
get
to
on
get?
that Xbox Series X, bro. Get on
Yeah,
that, get that Game Pass. Get your Halo on.
I
Get your
like the idea of having a next gen console. It sounds fun. It sounds fun. And playing some Halo, just playing all through. Like I just played through all the Halos.
Yeah, they have the Master Chief collection, which is all of them. And
Yeah,
they're all touched up and
yeah,
they run in like 4K and higher
yeah.
frames and really
And there
stuff.
aren't
So
that many games that like I couldn't play on it. And I have a PS4, so I can play them on that.
mhm.
I mean, I just don't really even care about the exclusives anymore anyway.
That's what I mean. That's when people ask me, it's like, well, Xbox is my initial reaction, mostly because of Game Pass. But I was like, unless you're like a diehard Sony exclusive person, like you have to play The Last of Us and you have to play Ghost of Tsushima and Ratchet and Clank, then maybe get a PlayStation if you really need to play those games. But if you don't really care that much, then it seems like Xbox is much smarter way to go in terms of
Yeah.
value.
PlayStation just needs to adopt that same thing and just start offering all these games
Well, I don't think they
via
can.
game.
They don't.
They don't have access to
The
them.
reason why Xbox can do it is because they're owned by Microsoft, which is like $1 trillion company, so they can afford to do it.
That's true. Yeah, that is
Sony is
true.
only so like Microsoft could buy Sony no problem if they really
Yeah.
wanted to.
They
But
probably wouldn't let them. It'd be a
Sony's only like, I don't know, maybe like a $70 billion company or something like that. I don't know
yeah.
the exact
Well,
financials,
let's find out.
but you know, like Microsoft paid $7.5 billion for Bethesda when they bought them.
Yeah.
Sony doesn't even have that kind of cash on hand. Like that's impossible. Like it was an impossible purchase for them to make unless they took some loans out or something. But
Sony is worth $125 billion,
no, okay. I wasn't too
which
far
is
off.
a fucking lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
Um,
But like but then compare that to Microsoft, which is
it's
probably like
probably not
fucking
even,
$2 trillion company or some shit.
I can't even imagine.
So the
It's
thing is that Microsoft just has the flexibility and the cash to do these programs and kind of take a loss on them for a little while until they become profitable. If you look at like the Netflix model, like Netflix was saying that I mean, they were just bleeding millions of dollars because they're spending all this money for original programming and stuff trying to get their subscribers up. And that's kind of what Microsoft has to do with the Xbox Game Pass stuff is they have to spend money to get these games on there and then just keep building up your subscriber base to a point where you're actually making money every month on it, which takes a lot of time and money to get there. So I
um,
just don't think Sony would ever be able to create something that's like super comparable.
yeah, but I mean, we need that kind of competition,
Mm-hmm.
at least in some capacity. At least do your exclusives or something. Just make your exclusives available through a pass system. A, I don't
Yeah.
know. Just do it.
Well, I think
Um,
there's plenty of people out there who are just they're big Sony, they're big PlayStation fans, and they're just going to stick with PlayStation. You know what I mean? And they'll just keep buying their games on there.
yeah, and they do have really good
Yeah.
exclusives and great, storytelling and all that. But
Like I'll always own both of them. I'm just
yeah,
Xbox will just be where I play most of my games, and then when this Sony exclusives hit, I'll just pick it up on my PlayStation, give it a spin.
yeah, it's so interesting. It's like the question about how much Sony is worth is a very easy question, but when you look at Microsoft, it's just a way more complex question. Um, they're talking about market value in the $2 trillion.
That's what I mean. I remember
I mean,
hearing that it
that's
was
not
like two
even
trillion
that's an amount of
something.
money that allows you to literally do whatever
Do
you
it.
want.
That's what I mean. Like if it was possible, they could just outright buy Sony, and they would make that money back in no
Yeah,
time.
but they wouldn't want to buy Sony. They'd want to buy Sony's gaming division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sony
you'd want
does
to buy
way more than
PlayStation
just
because
gaming.
Sony isn't even that profitable outside of
I know.
games. Like PlayStation is their most profitable thing, whereas Xbox is
Yeah.
kind of like Microsoft's fun side hustle. You know what I mean? Microsoft makes all of its money from software.
Yeah,
Xbox
they
is
make
just
a
a
lot of
small
money.
division
Well,
that they
and Microsoft
dabble
is
in
integrated into literally every PC.
everything. Yeah.
And well, other than Apple, like, I mean, most people own PCs. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you have a PC, Microsoft got money from the stupid
Yeah.
other software that's in there, but also from Windows 10 and then from Microsoft Office. And most people end up getting Microsoft Office and they pay monthly for that shit. So yeah,
Yep.
Microsoft is so
It's a
fucking
fucking
big.
juggernaut, man. Them
Yeah.
and Apple are like the two of the biggest companies in the world. So
Yeah. Them and Amazon and
yeah, Amazon would be another one for sure. Google.
Google, geez, these companies are so much bigger than the other companies. It's crazy. Who knows what that's going to lead to,
Well, that's yeah. That's it
in the
becomes a
way of
problem.
like power and money and
Monopolies and all kinds of
monopolies.
stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. What we need is internet. We need better internet, better, faster, cheaper internet. Like let the system work, it's all online. We need the access to it.
Hmm. Well, a lot of that's because companies have like monopolies in certain areas. Like
Yeah.
Comcast
Yeah,
usually
it's
is the only
bullshit.
provider in one area, so it's
It's
like
complete bullshit.
they can just charge you whatever the fuck they want because where else are you going to get your internet
Yeah.
services?
From Ziply.
So yeah, fucking CenturyLink, that shit's garbage.
Yeah. It's well, if you're a fat, you're a person who of a certain age who cares about the speed of their internet and
Oh,
wants
you
and
bet your
maxes it
ass I
out.
do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a lot of people our age and under know the value of having fast internet. They want to do
Hmm.
lots of things at once, or they want to do one thing that's fucking crazy. Like fast ass internet gaming or
Yeah,
whatever.
I pay for the Netflix. I pay for their 1 GB download speed
Yeah.
with no data cap. So I pay like an extra $15 a month to not have a data cap.
For
Because
Comcast?
yeah, because
Wow.
like the
Because
data
they have a
cap
data
was,
cap. Yeah.
yeah, it used to be like 100 gigs or no, it was a terabyte,
Yeah.
which is a lot. But when you play as many games as I do, and I do all my gaming digitally, a lot of games, some games are like 100 GB. So it's
Yeah.
like, bam, you've used up 10% of your data for the month downloading one game.
Yeah.
So as soon as they
Now,
created this no data cap option, I immediately was like, yeah, it's worth the extra $15 a month to not worry about it.
why did you say Netflix? What was that have to do with it?
Wait, did I say
I
Netflix?
think you meant Comcast and you said
Comcast. Yeah,
Netflix.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I
That's
meant
okay because
Comcast.
we were
Yeah.
talking about streaming and all that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's what's interesting is that like the upload speeds are so shitty with Comcast too. I think you
Mm-hmm.
can pay more to get better upload speeds, but people are uploading fucking like crazy.
Yeah, I don't upload that much, but I download
Yeah.
like crazy. So I don't,
Yeah.
the upload
Well,
speeds I don't
download's
care that
good.
much.
Yeah, you got to
But
have download for sure just to do anything. But
we're
anybody who
always
uses
streaming in the
YouTube,
house too.
yeah,
And so it's just like you use
yeah,
your internet speed constantly. It's like every time you're watching something, you're usually streaming it.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
through Wi-Fi or through a direct connection. It's all
mhm.
through that fucking box. Um,
Like
it's
when
interesting.
we were looking at
Yeah,
buying our house, I was like, the places we were looking, I was like, I need to see what the internet providers are. Because
of
if
course.
it's only CenturyLink, I'm not doing it. It's not worth living there because CenturyLink's
It's not going to do
service
it.
is not good.
Not when
It's
you
not
have
cut out for what
two
we do.
people who are doing,
Mm-hmm.
what you guys are doing. And that's going to just increase over time. People are going to just have higher demands for internet. And the thing about the internet is that once the infrastructure is there and you have the cables that can handle the amount of data, then it doesn't cost anything extra for them to keep them going for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's a certain amount of cost of maintenance for the whole system, but um like it doesn't cost them extra to have more internet to your house. It's
Well,
already
that's when
set
you
up.
need to have multiple companies in the same area so that they have to
Well,
compete.
they need to share the actual infrastructure and they don't, because Comcast has that cable that goes into the fucking coaxial and no one else gets to use that.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to allow people to either set up their own thing like that, which is too costly, because now it's all all the other companies use Ethernet. They use
Well, a lot of them are starting to use fiber too, the fiber
fiber.
wires that are
Yeah,
in underground.
and that's where they're able to do that, and fiber super fast. So um, I don't know what's causing the lack of competition. They just need to fucking like get in there and do a better job.
Mm-hmm.
But Comcast has a ton of money, and the other companies that are like that, I don't know. It's annoying. It's not that annoying. It's pretty good. It's pretty nice
Yeah.
to have the internet and do what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not
Not
gonna
that bad.
complain.
I'm not. I'm just saying it'd be
It
kind of
could always be
cool.
better for sure. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, whatever. All right, let's get
Let's
out of
wrap it
here.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Wow,
pretty
this went
tired.
long too.
I
Yeah, it's
figured it
already
when you said you want to talk about
9:30.
E3, I was like, that's gonna be a long episode.
Yeah,
There's a lot to talk about.
for sure. So go to joesnosblog.com, check out the website for show notes. Go to YouTube to watch E3 coverage. Go to Amazon and check out Amazon's books that
Go to
star.
Amazon to look at Amazon's
I'm
books. Look at
tired,
all the
man.
books
I'm
that
getting
Amazon's
tired.
got. Yeah, I'm there with you.
Channing sells books and he
I
makes
do.
books and
All
he
right
writes
then.
them,
I'm
and they're
almost
really
done.
good.
I'm almost done with the last Western Sin trilogy.
Hell
So
yeah.
close.
I'll buy it. I'm starting to read through Dune. What is it? God Emperor of Dune. Oh, geez, these books. They're so good. I fucking love them, but they're super confusing. Um, and yeah, check us out on the internet. What is that? Channing's making a
I don't know.
teeth face.
That's where I'm at, man.
All right, go to
All right.
our Facebook page linked from the website and tell us what games you're looking forward to and what you think about the gaming industry and what you're going to be playing, or just
And
put
what
your
console Joe should
yeah,
invest in next?
put your gamer tag on there, and then just let people friend you. Because you can't have too many friends online.
Nope. More people to ignore when you just want to play a single player
Yeah,
game and they're
yeah.
trying to
I
hassle you to
don't
play.
remember any of the people on my list anymore. I know like two
I
people.
went through and like culled my list like not
Oh,
that long ago on
that sounds like
PlayStation
work.
because I had like, you know, 50, 60 people as friends on PlayStation. And I'm like looking through the list. I'm like, I don't even remember who some of these fucking people are. Like
Yeah.
the people that
Uh,
I met when I used to work at GameStop and you were always swapping your PSN and ID and gamer
yeah.
tags with
Yeah.
like
I remember
regular
that.
customers and shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't talked to any of these people since I worked there, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
take them off.
I think, yeah, I could probably get rid of like 99% of the people on there because I just don't play with them. Even if they, like I remember who they are, which
Yeah.
I probably don't. I don't I don't end up playing with them. And it's like you're just disconnected. Like you don't want to just bug somebody with like your fucking words.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, what's going on? Let's spend 20 minutes trying to catch up and then never talk again for another 2 years.
Right.
And then play like one game together for 2 minutes. And it's super frustrating because we're not like on the same plane. We're not on the same level anymore. So on that cheery note,
Sounds good.
all right, maybe I'll get an Xbox and then you'll get an Xbox and we can play like Battlefield together because that
I
game's
already
kind
have
of
the
fun.
Xbox. I'll get
I
Battlefield. I'll play
know, I know.
Battlefield. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
Maybe
I'm
maybe
probably gonna
I'll
pick it up anyway
ask.
because it looks fucking cool. I was like, even if I don't play a ton of it, I definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, it could be fun. It's different. That's one thing it's got going for it. There's not a lot of stuff that's like Battlefield.
No,
Not
it's been
really.
long enough since Battlefield 1 is the last one that I spent.
Yeah,
Like I played a lot
I
of
did. I
Battlefield
played quite
1,
a bit of that one
but
too.
I didn't play Battlefield V or 5 or whatever the fuck it's called. I didn't play that one at all.
I
I
don't think
heard
I played
nothing.
that very much
I
at
just
all.
heard bad things about it, so I just stayed away from it. So I haven't
Yeah,
played Battlefield since 1.
it's a bummer. All right. Thanks for
All right.
listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.
Toodaloo.
Bye.